O'clock, we'll call this meeting to order.
All right, Dr. Chase.
Here.
Ms. Decatur's absent. Ms. Hazard.
Here.
Ms. Healy.
Here.
Ms. Hollerback.
Here.
Mr. McCosker. Here. And Ms. Young.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Would you please stand for the color guard presentation by the Mountain View High School Marine Corps JROTC and Pledge of Allegiance.
Colors. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Harry. Colors. Cut. Order. Colors. Ready. Cut. On.
We'd like to thank the following cadets who are with us this evening: Cadet Russ, Cadet Scott, Cadet Poth, and Cadet Knight, and also the instructors of the Mountain View High School Marine Corps JROTC program, Lieutenant Colonel Richard Barnes and Sergeant Major Alan Tanner, and they will be back with us when we come to awards. Do we have a motion for approval of the agenda? Dr. Chase.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda, but with an amendment. I would like to remove item 10.01, approval of adjustment to bus driver hourly pay rates to address bus driver shortages, be put off for a later date. Dr. Kisner, Chairwoman Healy, and I met with bus drivers this morning at a town hall meeting. It was very informative, and they would like to be part of developing the solution to the bus driver shortage. They requested that we pull this item from the agenda until a committee, including drivers and monitors, can meet to come up with a hopefully better solution. They also asked that if there is a pay increase for current drivers, that it be retroactive to October 1st, when item 10.01 would have gone into effect if we voted on it tonight.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion for approval of a revised agenda. And second by Ms. Young. Do we have any discussion?
Yes, I have a question. Do we have a fix to the problem that we have right now with kids being out on Route 1, out at their bus stops for 30 minutes, an hour, kids staying at school until 4:30, teachers having to stay there until another bus run can come get them? This wasn't supposed to be a fix of the salary scale. This was supposed to be a recruitment fix. And then we were going to deal with the other stuff later. So I just want to know if anybody's given any consideration on how we're going to help Barry Sudduth fix this problem. So that's a question for the floor.
Ms.
Well, let me ask this question. Is that a question about whether we should approve the amended agenda, or is that a discussion? We can, have a discussion about that, this evening, but is that related to the motion to approve the agenda with that item removed?
Well, I won't support it if we're not going to have a plan B to get our kids to school in the morning. 'Cause my son's been sitting on Route 1, standing on Route 1 for 30 minutes calling me saying, "Mom, the bus hasn't come yet." And it's not Barry's fault. It's our fault. So whether we have the conversation later or we have it now, I'm not saying that we want to listen to them. I want to listen to them. I want to hear what they have to say, but we have a problem. We need to fix it. We can't punt it. We can't keep doing this until December. My kids standing out on Route 1, my constituents' kids are standing at the bus stop for sometimes an hour. We got to do something now. Is everybody going to go get their CDL license and fill in? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. But we can't just punt this. We got to do something about this.
Ms. Healy, what if we move this agenda item to information for tonight? If there's some comments that board members would like to make as part of this going forward, we really didn't, at the last meeting, have an opportunity for board members to opine. What if we put it for information? Might be sort of understanding, so that if anybody, because you all are bus drivers, and I know you're up at like 5 in the morning, not to put it too late, but maybe there needs to be just some information time for the board to opine, and maybe even to get some more information perhaps from the meeting today. How about that as an idea, as a
Yeah, that's an acceptable amendment to my amendment.
All right, do we want to make that the first information item?
Sure.
Sure,
That will
11.01.
save us an hour, maybe perhaps more. Now, for purposes of the people that are here interested in that what it means is that it's not before the board to vote on tonight. It is before the board for discussion purposes. And during that discussion, Dr. Kisner, Dr. Chase, and I can talk about the meeting that we attended today and the concerns that were raised and the approach that, Dr. Kisner is crafting to address it. And also your concern as well, Ms. Egan. All right, so.
Ms. Healy, prior to the vote, we may also want to move consent, correct, to, hold on, I'm sorry, I was trying to multitask. Would we like to move the consent item, especially 9.01, but also 9.02, to
After awards, perhaps?
after awards? Is that correct?
And before the public hearing and the citizen comments? Well,
Yes.
just so those that are here for the public hearing and the citizen comments, the consent won't take long, we promise. All right, so is that acceptable to you? Ms.
Yes.
Young, is the second? All right, so the motion is to approve the agenda to remove action item 10.1 and to move it to information item 11.01, and to move consent from action number 9 to number 5 after awards and recognitions. All right, any discussion, any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so we have an agenda and we have it amended. That brings us to awards and recognitions. The first is Ms. Pamela Kale, Associate Superintendent of Instructional Services. Come on down, Ms. Kale.
Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, and Dr. Kisner. Audience, please hold your applause until the end. We have something great coming forward. Please come forward when I call your name. Those representing Shirley Neil Middle School. Those representing A.G. Wright Middle School.
Wait a minute. Mr. Boatwright, we know you're powerful, but. That's right. Rock Hill is strong.
Those representing Rodney Thompson Middle School. And those representing Kate Waller Barrett Elementary School.
Oh, you're all outnumbered. So now I'm losing the Rock Hill contingent. They're moving down here. Thompson and you mine.
I feel really, really safe when you guys are in front of me.
In June of 2019, the Virginia Department of Education announced schools in Virginia receiving the 2019 Board of Education Continuous Improvement Award. Virginia designated 183 elementary and secondary schools. Stafford County is proud to say that we have 4 of those schools. Congratulations to Kate Waller Barrett Elementary School, A.G. Wright Middle School, Rodney Thompson Middle School, and Shirley Neil Middle School. In addition, to earn the Board of Education Continuous Achievement Award, a school must earn a state accreditation rating of accredited or accredited with conditions. Additionally, these 4 schools met the criteria of having a cumulative 10-point increase over 3 years in the combined rates for reading and mathematics for 2 or more student groups, with improvement yearly for each group on both indicators. This recognition certainly speaks to the dedication of staff members in those 4 respective schools who are committed to ensuring a high-quality education for all students. Congratulations to these 4 schools. Please join me in congratulating Kate Waller-Barrett, Rodney Thompson, A.G. Wright, and John.
Let's see how good these high school interns are. Congratulations.
Next, we'd like to recognize Dr. Daniel Hornick, principal of North Stafford High School.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chairman, school board members, Dr. Kisner. We are here to bring forward some of the best that North Nation has to offer in the spirit of our student first mentality. Could I please have Mr. Thomas Nichols? This young man has an amazing story. For those of you who don't know, he was diagnosed with leukemia at the tender age of 5. As his family was dealing with the shock of finding about his diagnosis, they learned about the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Thomas and his family began to raise money for the society, and these efforts became a family and a yearly tradition. Primary fundraising methods included lemonade stands, door-to-door sales, and as time went on, harnessing the power of social media. He's continued his fundraising efforts every year for the last 12 years. In middle school, the folks who run the Prudential Spirit of Community Awards program learned about Thomas and his efforts, and he represented Virginia as a prime example of what it means to be a volunteer. In August of 2019, Thomas and his family eclipsed the $100,000 mark for fundraising. Freelance Star reporters learned about this milestone and reached out to Thomas, and you likely saw an amazing article highlighting his efforts. He was then asked to go on to live radio on News Talk 1230 with Ted Schubel back on September the 10th. We are so proud of Thomas. He exemplifies North Nation, and he is also, by the way, our Big Blue Band drum major. He's a goalie on the lacrosse team and a certified EMT. We could not be more prouder. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Thomas Nichols. I'd like to invite his family as well.
I must also say that this Tom Nichols often gets the emails for the other Tom Nichols, so he knows a lot about our school system. Tom.
Okay, so sorry, Charisse, I'm going to have to go off script for this one. Would Mrs. Laura Sly please come down? To describe Laura Sly, I'm going to start with teacher extraordinaire. She works in our freshman transition academy to ensure that all of our students coming from 8th grade into 9th grade have the smoothest possible transition. Last year, when we needed to fix some issues with respect to math scores and some student performance, I asked Laura, hey, can you fix this? Shouldn't surprise anybody in this chamber that she did. Every one of those students passed, walked across the stage, got their ticket to the future, and are ready to tackle the world. Community leader in the wake of her son AJ's tragic death in 2014. We were all there for her, but what she doesn't know is somehow, in the midst of it, she was there more for us. And her efforts gave us a whole new vocabulary, was Sly strong, and it unified a community. And then, of course, we come to the most recent event, which I'm going to preface with the greatest Laura Sly story that I have of all time, her son Joey, who's now kicking in the NFL for the Carolina Panthers, just so you know. He was at Virginia Tech at the time, and he was finishing his studies in December, but they were still preparing for their bowl game. So once his last final was done, he called Mom and said, "Mom, I'm happy to report that I am no longer a student athlete, I'm just an athlete." And in true Laura Sly manner, to make sure that he stayed grounded and he was preparing for his future, she said to him, quote, "And you're also an unemployed adult." Because you see, in the Sly family, you have to be prepared for what's next. And never more did that come true, most recently here on September the 3rd, when we can add another descriptor to Mrs. Sly, lifesaver. As always, she was in the right place at the right time. During the day, one of our North Nation freshmen was choking on a piece of candy. Student approached Mrs. Sly, who jumped into action. There was no time to call for security, admin, or the nurse. She simply was prepared, initiated the Heimlich maneuver, dislodged the candy, and literally didn't say a word about it. Didn't even hear about it for a day or two, because it's just what Laura does. The student and her parents are here tonight, and I would like to invite them down as well. They are incredibly grateful for Mrs. Sly's quick response. This event is just the latest in a career defined by greatness. I cannot put into words how much Mrs. Sly means to me as a teacher, friend, leader, and mentor. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Laura Sly. And the natural segue from lifesaver to life changer. Would Mrs. Kelly O'Connor please come forward? Mrs. O'Connor is in her second year teaching at North Stafford High School, but she's in her 19th year in education. She has taught at numerous high schools and middle schools around the country, and she has been a blessing to have at North Stafford. She is incredibly flexible with what she is able to teach, and willing to work with every student, from the most naturally gifted all the way to the ones that need extra assistance. A dual enrollment English student at North Stafford High School recently nominated Mrs. O'Connor, our amazing English teacher, for a Life Changer of the Year award. The student wrote in his nomination packet, quote, "Miss O'Connor has been a tremendous mentor to me throughout the college application process, and when I asked Ms. O'Connor about it, she assisted and proofread and gave feedback on 14 different college applications that he completed. Additional students have supported this sentiment by leaving comments such as, one student said, "Ms. O'Connor makes sure to go above and beyond what is necessary and required of teachers and her responsibilities." Another student said, "What she, Mrs. O'Connor, teaches fully represents the world we live in today and better prepares us for the road and the world ahead." And finally, another student said she cares about her students on a deeply personal level. Ms. O'Connor exemplifies our core North Nation values and always goes above and beyond the call of duty for our students. I couldn't be prouder to be here with her tonight as she receives this award. Please join me in congratulating Mrs. O'Connor. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hornig. That brings us to Sergeant Major Alan Tanner, Marine Corps instructor at Mountain View High School.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, school board members, Dr. Kisner. Will the Wildcat Battalion please come forward? In only its second year, the Mountain View Marine Corps JROTC program is designated as a Naval Honor School by the Commanding General of Marine Corps Training and Education Command. Selection of this prestigious award means that the Wildcat Battalion is in the top 20% of all Marine Corps JROTC programs globally. Accepting this award this evening is our cadet battalion staff. I will introduce them to my left, going to the right. The Cadet Battalion Commander, Cadet Kushner, Cadet Executive Officer, Cadet Russ, Cadet Senior Enlisted Advisor, Cadet Scott, Cadet S1 Officer, Cadet Barbie, Cadet S1 Chief, Cadet Peters, Cadet S3 Officer, Cadet Hernandez, Cadet S3 Chief, Cadet Thompson, Cadet S4 Chief. The S4 officer is out practicing football, and the Cadet Chief, Cadet Waters, and Supply Chief, Cadet Poth, and our Cadet Color Guard is Cadet Knight. Please join me in congratulating the Cadet Wildcat Battalion.
Parents, if you want to move up and take better pictures, you can come up and take better pictures. Don't move until your parents are done.
All right, next we'd like to recognize Ms. Cherie Johnson, Director of Strategic Communication and Community Engagement.
All right. Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, and Dr. Kisner. I'm here this evening to thank the community partners that teamed up with the Office of Strategic Communication and Community Engagement to help the Collect for Kids Back to School Supply Drive. Will the following SCPS partners please come forward? Stafford County Parks and Recreation, Stafford County Transportation, B101.5 B Crew and Buzzy, Mount Arrett Baptist Church, Taco Tuesday Truck, Rappahannock Orthodontics, Sylvan Learning of Stafford, Stafford Lakes Walmart, Hildrop, Target, Stafford Marketplace, Triton Finnet, Train, St. Andrew's Orthodox Church, ABM Industries, Rotary Club of Stafford, Liberty Mutual Insurance, Mosquito Authority, Sheriff Decatur and members of the Stafford County Sheriff's Office, Chalk and More, Stafford Crossing Community Church, Outback Steakhouse, Sweet Frog, Central Rappahannock Regional Library. The Give Back team of Caldwell Banker Elite. Apple Federal Credit Union, Stafford. Barnes & Noble. Navy Federal Credit Union. Michael C. Smith, State Farm Insurance Agent. American Legion, 219. Geico. Stafford NAACP Youth Council. Staples of Stafford. Singleton Enterprises. Team Velocity. Kumon Stafford West. This event was a huge success. Community Engagement Manager Charisse Taylor led the event, which took place on August 7, 2019 at the Public Safety Center. Approximately 45 volunteers packed over 600 backpacks with school supplies to ensure that all Stafford County Public School students have the materials they need to succeed. We couldn't do it without our community partners. The Collect for Kids Back to School Drive is a true community event that involves many organizations who are represented here today and a few others who could not attend. Thank you, Superintendent Dr. Scott Kistner, School Board Member Ms. Pamela Young, and Board of Supervisors Cindy Shelton for attending this event. We would also like to thank our SCPS staff, including the school counselors, teachers, and staff who stuffed the backpacks and assisted with the coordination to make this event a success. The SCPS Department of Transportation provided buses at Karaoke in the Park, National Night Out, Walmart, and Staples stuffed the bus events. Thank you to Stafford County Government Parks and Recreation for hosting the Karaoke in the Park event and the Stafford County Sheriff's Department for providing the location as well as moving and accepting school supplies before the event. I would like to say a huge thank you to Operations and Maintenance for moving all of the supplies from the Professional Development Center to the Public Safety Center. Thank you to the anonymous donors that gave school supply donations for SCPS students in need. Again, thank you for your support, and we look forward to many, many more partnerships in the future. Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Hey, Johnny Bench, you guys beat my Mets the other day. What's wrong with you? I might take that.
Shirt just for Johnny Bench.
How you doing, man? Need a bigger room.
Congratulations to all those receiving awards tonight, and many, many thanks to our community partners. I think Ms. Johnson, you and Ms. Taylor have done an amazing job of harnessing all this generosity that we have in our community, and the students are the beneficiaries. So thank you very, very much. All right, that brings us to the public hearing.
Consent agenda.
No, that's right, the consent agenda. All right, we told them that would take a couple minutes. Do we have a motion for the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve by Dr. Chase, second by Ms. Hazard. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Dr. Kisner, we're just calling on you for any announcements
Right.
after the consent agenda.
Thank you very much. I have two people I'd like to introduce. First, I'd like to introduce Mr. Brian Williams. He's our new Director of School Nutrition. Mr. Williams assumes this position after completing 18 years in a similar position at Suffolk County Public Schools, where he oversaw 21 schools. Prior to that, he was in a supervisory role at Virginia Beach Public Schools and also at Delaware State University. He earned his Bachelor's of Science degree in Hotel Restaurant Management from Virginia Tech, woohoo, and a Master's of Art in Theological Studies from Liberty University. And he has a lot of credentials. I'm not going to read them, but he's well qualified, and he's going to be a great asset. Thank you.
Welcome. Welcome.
I think Ms. Fox is here, is she? Come on. Ms. Cherie Fox was going to assume the position of assistant principal at A.G. Wright Middle School. Currently, she's, well, up to a minute ago, she was the coordinator at the Stafford Day School. Prior to her role, she served as a special education teacher and a diagnostician in Stafford. She started her career in Westmoreland Public School. She's been with us since 2003. She has a significant amount of experience in all aspects of special education and differentiating instruction. She received her bachelor's degree in health sciences from Bridgewater College, a master's in education from University of Virginia, and she received her ed leadership endorsement from Longwood University. Welcome. Do you have anybody here with you to introduce?
My husband.
Yeah. I kind of thought that might. Hi, husband. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kisner. Well, our new appointees are welcome to stay for the meeting, or if you choose, you are free to go. But we wanted to recognize you before we get into our extended time period here. That brings us to the public hearing on the FY21 budget priorities. Now, this is independent from the citizen comment period, in which people are invited to comment on anything they wish to talk about. The public hearing on the fiscal year 21 budget priorities is limited to those budget priorities. We have one person who signed up, and that is Paul Waldowski. And before Mr. Waldowski comes forward, Dr. Chase, do you want to read we have a little blurb that we read before any of these public comment periods, so.
Individuals wishing to comment about the FY21 budget priorities may do so at this time. Speakers shall identify themselves by name, address, and organizational affiliation if the spokesperson represents an organization. Speakers shall also announce the purpose or topic of their comments. 3 minutes shall be allotted to speakers. The chairwoman reserves the right to restrict the total citizen comment received at any particular meeting to a predetermined maximum number of minutes with the approval of the board. Citizen comment which is profane, abusive, or which threatens imminent physical harm shall be ruled out of order by the chairwoman. Although the board provides the opportunity for citizen comment, individuals desiring to register complaints against division employees or division programs, services, or activities may also utilize the procedures outlined in SCPS Policy 1113, Public Complaints.
Thank you, Dr. Chase. Mr. Waldowski? And if anyone wants to speak about the FY21 budget priorities, please come forward after Mr. Waldowski, and there's a sign-up sheet that you can sign after you speak.
Paul Waldowski, 8 Pickett Lane in the gerrymandered Rock Hill District. I went through the county profile before I came here to speak about the budget priorities. And as the meeting started today, it seems to me one of your key priorities should be bus drivers. One of the key problems that this county has is we have all kinds of traffic issues around our schools. I'm very familiar with Mountain View and Margaret Brent Elementary School. I see bus drivers who drive down my street and there's no one to pick up. So if we have this shortage, then we need to examine with the budget aspects and address it. One of the other key things that burns me is every time you want to redistrict, you spend money and you're really not going anywhere. 2021 by law, off the 2020 census, the county has to redistrict, so there might only be 5 school board members, which I brought up many times before. You each get $12K a year in a stipend. And you also saw tonight in the awards how the community supports school supplies. So think of that aspect of that's not in your budget priorities. And if it is in your budget priorities, well, you should address it, that it's eliminating your expenses. I also love when people tell me about the school growth enrollment. It's not there, folks. You keep on saying the 6th high school. I keep telling you, I've been here 29 years, and my kids are long gone. The cicadas are coming in 2030. Matter of fact, the cicadas came in 2019. It's really amazing. I didn't know that. But if you ever look at the budget overview of the county, the revenue is $573 million. And the expenditure summary comes down to $572 million. So we stay right in that aspect. But when you take the pie, it says schools and debt service. And I think you need to address the debt service. If you're paying interest, you need to reprioritize, because the money you're wasting in interest could go back into the infrastructure. And you all know what I think about giving everyone a 5% raise. There's those who need it and those who don't.
Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board on the FY21 budget priorities? All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing and come to citizen comments. Dr. Chase.
So individuals wishing to comment at this time may do so. Speakers shall identify themselves by name, address, and organizational affiliation if the spokesperson represents an organization. Speakers shall also announce the purpose or topic of their comments. 3 minutes shall be allotted to speakers. The chairwoman reserves the right to restrict the total citizen comment received in any particular meeting to a predetermined maximum number of minutes with the approval of the board. Citizen comment which is profane, abusive, or which threatens imminent physical harm shall be ruled out of order by the chairwoman. Although the board provides the opportunity for citizen comment, individuals desiring to register complaints against division employees or division programs, services, or activities may also utilize the procedures outlined in SCPS Policy 1113, Public Complaints.
Thank you, Dr. Chase. We have 10 people who've signed up to address the board, so we'll take those people first, and then when we finished, if anyone else wishes to address the board, you can come forward. The first 3 speakers are John Cook, Shirley Neil, and Laura Brewer.
Hello, members. My name is John Cook, 120 Oaklawn Road here in Stafford, Virginia. And I just want to thank you very much for each of you for what you do and your willingness to step in. And I realize that the last few months have been very tumultuous, to say the least, in regards to the discrimination clauses. But what I'm really here to talk to you about today, since that vote already has come and gone, is I'm asking you in regards to item 10.4 on this evening's docket about attorney-client privilege. I would ask that you would waive that tonight. I'm asking that you all would let us know as a community the legal advice that was given to you in regards to these 2 policies. From an outsider looking in, I can only assume one of 2 things: that the information that you received from your attorneys was something along the lines of you need to wait on this vote until current legal actions that are in the court system are ruled upon, or maybe even worse, your attorney said that you are overstepping your boundaries as a school board, your legal boundaries as a school board. Regardless of which way you vote this evening, my final plea is that you would not implement any changes to the discrimination policies prior to September 10th's vote. I am concerned that as a citizen, you are opening up this county and specifically the school board to legal fees and costs that will do nothing but drain the possibilities to enhance our bus drivers that we've been talking about, increasing the pay for our teachers, and upgrades to our buildings. And last of all, if you do include these, or if you choose to move forward, I believe that there's a chance that we will have wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars on possible retrofits for schools that are completely unnecessary, especially if the court system comes in and says that you all have overstepped your legal bounds, and by creating a new discriminated class of people, or protected class of people, excuse me, you've just simply overstretched your boundaries, and we have wasted millions of dollars. Thank you for your time.
Shirley Neil, followed by Laura Brewer.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Shirley Neil. I live at 3 Corduroy Court, Stafford. I just want to first start with thanking Dr. Kisner, Dr. Charisse, Ms. Healy, as well as Mr. Fulmer for the emergency town hall meeting that was had at Transportation today. Ms. Hellerback, you were referencing in regard to getting bus drivers to come into our county. Unfortunately, raising the bus driver pay, it's not going to do it. And the reason we say that is because you have tenured bus drivers that are here that have heard time and time and time again, as the bus driver pay, the new driver's pay is increased. You guys are going to get it. It's coming. Bear with us. It's coming. It never comes. And so therefore, this is the start of my 20th year. If you raise bus driver pay, you're going to have a new bus driver coming in, making just under $1 less than I do, with zero experience. Zero. But I'm here. I've been through the ups and downs for the last 20 years. Not anyone can just drive a school bus. It takes a very special person. With that being said, please forgive me, but I would like to reference what you all unfortunately heard today, if that's okay with you all.
It's your turn.
Part of the reason we cannot keep school bus drivers is because our children are out of control. Out of control. Just last week, I had a young man, I asked him to move out of the aisle. There was a group, and I asked him to move out of the aisle so that I could see out of my back window. And I was called a fucking bitch, and I was also told to suck his dick. This, again, I apologize. This is and I'm going to use it, the abuse that the bus drivers receive, and that's just a very mild form of it. And until we address larger issues, don't get me wrong, as I stated to Dr. Kisner and the ladies today, sure, addressing the pay is wonderful, but because everybody likes a nice paycheck when they have to deal with something horrible. May I continue?
Yes.
We don't, well, given the fact that we don't have a whole lot of people on tonight, if the board has no objection, I'd like to allow Ms. Brewer to continue.
I'd like to have been there this afternoon, but I couldn't be, so.
We couldn't because we can't have 3 people without a notice.
Forgive me. And there's bigger issues.
Ms. Neal, I'm sorry.
That's
Ms.
okay.
Brewer's next.
It's okay. It's all right. You have to, you've got many of our drivers that are here tonight are senior drivers. Again, I stand behind, we've been there. Until I referenced today about how, yes, the pay will, pardon my language, make the bullshit slide down just a little bit easier. And unfortunately, that's the case. Until we address much larger issues, the support, taking control back, nothing is going to change. Nothing. You can go out and you can hire all the people you want, but not everybody can drive a bus. Not everybody. It takes a very special person to be able to do it. And what's happening is they're going and they're getting these bus drivers, and they're coming in and they stay for a few months and then they leave. They go drive a dump truck, or they go to other counties. And again, it does, although money is not the main problem, it is a significant problem, but there are others that there's more. It's more in depth than just, let's go get them. Here lately, we've been taking quantity over quality. And it's not fair to the kids. Someone was talking about redistricting. The redistricting, every single bus driver in this county, most of us have had same runs for years. Not anymore. We have so many children, and we have close to 3 classrooms on our buses. 3 classrooms for one of me, one of my fellow drivers, one of us. Until the much bigger issues are addressed, which Dr. Kisner today, we're agreed to form a committee to work on getting things done, nothing's going to change. We are busting our humps to get these kids to and from school. And unfortunately, I can tell you I wouldn't want my children on a bus with out-of-control children to hear that. I wouldn't. Many of my fellow drivers have young kids. It's not okay. And like we explained to Dr. Chase, Ms. Healy, and Dr. Kisner, it's deeper. And until we get to the root and have nothing's going to change. Nothing. October 21st through 25th, I believe, I think it's bus driver. It's my understanding that we're going to be having everyone come out on our buses. You need to see the good, and you need to see the bad. And when I say you're going to see the bad, trust me when I tell you, you're going to want to tuck your head and hide. And that's not exaggerating. So with all due respect, again, I apologize for the language, but that is just a very minor incident of something that we deal with that has to be addressed. Again, thank you very much for today, and I can speak for myself, and I think others. We truly look forward to working with you. We really, really do, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Neil. After Ms. Brewer, Susan Randall, followed by Michele Whitman.
Hi, Laura Brewer, 6 Darby Wood Court. I'm not really quite sure if I can follow that, but I'll give it a whirl. So I want to thank you guys for coming today and for orchestrating the town hall meeting, and to thank Dr. Chase, Mrs. Healy, and Mr. Fulmer for attending. Some people say driving a school bus is a thankless job. I'm thankful for every student I have transported in the past 24 years. All of my kids have become part of my heart. Every thought I have, every decision I make while driving is guided by the knowledge that I am responsible for somebody else's child, somebody else's reason for living. In reference to item 10.1 on the agenda, I applaud you in your conscientious efforts to attract more school bus driver applicants. New driver pay has increased 3 times in recent years with no resolution to the driver shortage. Based on the examples given at the meeting earlier today, I hope you can agree that increasing the new driver pay alone is not the solution. Albert Einstein is accredited with the quote, "The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. It's time to stop the insanity." Unfortunately, Dr. Kisner inherited a mess referred to as pay banding that was never fully implemented. A fair market middle ground needs to be found, a pay scale developed and executed. Drivers and monitors across the board are entitled to and deserve equitable pay based on years of experience. We have a driver in their 11th year this year, contracted 11 years, making $17.48 an hour. We have another driver in their 2nd year being contracted, making $17.50 an hour. You do the math. Some drivers have resigned and come back to make more money. I'm not going to reiterate the issues brought up today, as they can't be fixed here and now. What I'm going to do is invite each of you, along with the Board of Supervisors, Central Office, and administrators, to come ride our buses during National School Bus Safety Week, October 21st through 25th. Please take the time to visit more than one bus in several areas throughout the county. I know you will be surprised at the issues we encounter daily and be equally impressed at our level of professionalism. I appreciate your intent and hope dialogue continues as we move forward together, making Stafford County School Transportation Department one that others can only aspire to. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brewer. Ms. Randall.
Hi, I'm Susan Randall, 222 Wood Landing Road in the George Washington District. I know this board is working hard and creatively on Ferry Farm, but I still want to share some of my concerns. In August of 2014, 5 years ago, the headline read, "Grafton Village has a new school feeling." The article reviewed the needed and the nice to haves throughout the building. They received new HVAC, flooring, lighting, electrical, plumbing work, and technology upgrades, and a marquee sign. The budgets ranged for the 3 renovations between 11.4 and 11.9. That was 5 years ago. Med Bomke was quoted as saying, "It brings Grafton into parity with the other elementary schools." One teacher commented, "The trailers were actually nice." What will the headline be after Ferry Farm is complete? Can we say our renovation brings us into parity? Can we say our trailers are actually nice with no water, bathrooms, or rooms that are connected inside for classes that change classes and will be changing them outside? Falmouth was running dehumidifiers in classrooms and had to go first. There are no more dehumidifiers. Ferry Farm has them, but sadly, the air quality in that wing of the school will not be tested, and the renovation will not touch a single classroom to improve anything. Our middle pink tile hallway with unsafe classroom doors and plumbing problems will get a hall wrap. All 4 schools ahead of us saw renovated new kitchens. We have a fridge that is quote-unquote grandfathered. We should pause at that word. If you are doing a renovation and still can use the word grandfathered, something isn't quite right. We still have cracked asbestos tile being watched. Money was spent on architectural plans on a design for the rebuild, and what happened to it? It's gone. When the plan changed, many more dollars were spent on an architect and his drawings for 4-phase renovation. But on February 19th, Dr. Kisner told the Board of Supervisors that Ferry Farm could do with what they were being given and no more phases or additional dollars. Mrs. Maurer reiterated his statement. There went more dollars out the window, along with half of Phase 2, all of Phase 3, and all of Phase 4. Now our patch school will see a brand new shiny front. We will get the needed music, art, and library, but nothing for the majority of our classrooms. How are we going to attract the best and brightest to teach at Ferry Farm? I know year-end dollars, should it work out, may address the HVAC in the kitchens throughout the county. But what about our grandfathered appliances that are used to house food for staff and students? What about our cracked asbestos tiles? What about the annoying humming dehumidifiers in our 4th and 5th grade wing? All of the classrooms. I know we're late getting started, and unlike every other school, we're not starting and ending with the start and end of a school year. I will say the ability to take every blow on the chin like a champ award goes to the staff at Ferry Farm. Any change, disappointment, and promises have been handled like true professionals. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Randall. After Michele Whitman, Britton Cardner, and Dana Brown.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Kisner. My name is Michele Whitman. I reside at 305 Bentley Court in Hampton Oaks. I'm also a teacher at North Stafford High School. I'm speaking today on multiple points. Actually, the first is regarding bus driver compensation. I really appreciate that you've recognized that we have a serious problem that needs action now. Our drivers are grossly underpaid and overworked, yet they continue to do their best every single day because they have too much integrity to do any less. But continually asking the drivers of Stafford County to do more with less and do it without appropriate compensation is a practice that's not sustainable if we want to attract new drivers and retain experienced ones. However, giving a larger increase to those with less experience causes tension between experience levels, and it makes those who have demonstrated long-term loyalty to Stafford County feel undervalued. We saw evidence of this with the market adjustments to the teacher pay scale in recent years. So I am glad that you've made the decision to pull it tonight in favor of a better plan. I hope that you'll work towards a fair solution that doesn't leave any group of drivers feeling that we don't value the sacrifices they make every day. Now I'm going to put my mom hat on to speak about post-redistricting issues. I believe you're talking in 11.06. As I stated, I live in Hampton Oaks. Precisely, I live in the townhome section. And in the last middle school redistricting, the towns of Hampton Oaks were rezoned to Stafford Middle School, which is 6 miles away. This seems ridiculous when you know that H.H. Poole Middle School, which we were previously zoned for along with the rest of the neighborhood, is just 2.3 miles down the road. This issue was further complicated by the recent elementary redistricting, which leaves the entirety of the Hampton Oaks subdivision going to Hampton Oaks Elementary School, H.H. Poole Middle School, and North Stafford High School, except for the townhomes, which still bus to Stafford Middle. So the kids in our little section are all attending Hampton Oaks. Then they're separated from their classmates and traveling nearly 3 times the distance for middle school, only to have any relationships at Stafford Middle severed 3 years later so they can go back to North Stafford High School. I am fortunate that my daughter has been able to attend H.H. Poole on a waiver, but I'm still responsible for getting her to and from school. She's able to ride the bus in the morning from North to H.H. Poole, but because of the driver shortage and transportation issues, her route is long, so she rides for almost an hour to get 2.3 miles to her school from North. There isn't a bus that returns to North in the afternoon either, so coordinating how she gets home is often different depending on the day. According to student enrollment projection updated in August, H.H. Poole will be under 90% capacity for the foreseeable future, so I urge you to consider the detrimental impact of these redistricting decisions to the students in our little section of the neighborhood, and I would hope that you return the towns of Hampton Oaks to H.H. Poole next year. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the school board. I am here tonight to bring to your attention an issue with the towns of Hampton Oaks. I am also a resident of Hampton Oaks. I live at 110 Bentley Court. And my daughter will, when she gets to that age, she would, as of right now, attend Stafford Middle School, while the rest of the single-family homes of Hampton Oaks would attend H.H. Poole. When you tell people you live in Hampton Oaks, those from the area usually say, are you from the pool side or the school side? The townhomes tend to be the forgotten middle child. They were seemingly forgotten at the last middle school redistricting when we were moved from H.H. Poole to Stafford Middle. Even longtime residents were not aware of this change. until last year when the redistricting occurred for elementary schools and maps were poured over. That is when many learned of this change. And quite honestly, when you look at Stafford Middle and you look at the boundaries, you kind of go, what happened here? The boundaries for Stafford Middle tend to make little sense. Hampton Oaks Elementary is now made up of 3 areas. It's Aquia Harbor, Hampton Oaks, and Shadow Woods. In middle school, Aquia Harbor would attend Shirley Heim. The single-family homes of Hampton Oaks would attend H.H. Poole, and the townhouses of Hampton Oaks, along with Shadow Woods, would attend Stafford Middle School. Essentially, 3 APUs of students that would attend Hampton Oaks Elementary would be moved to Stafford, would attend Stafford Middle. I urge the members of the board to take a close look at many areas where neighborhoods are now split for middle school. That was an important criteria for the elementary redistricting. Middle school should be no different. The middle child of Hampton Oaks will not be forgotten. We fought along with our neighbors last year to be unified at Hampton Oaks. We will fight again to remain at H.H. Poole unified. Thank you.
All right, after Ms. Brown, Paul Waldowski, Adela Bertoldi, and Tim Whitley.
Hi, I'm Dana Brown. I live at 41 St. Williams Way, and just off the top real quick, my daughter occasionally rides bus 97. Everything is great. Not having any issues. The bus is not overcrowded. It shows up when it's supposed to. Just wanted to get that out there. I'm here tonight to ask you to go ahead and waive attorney-client privilege, specifically pertaining to the opinion and the analysis on the no discrimination policy. It seems to me, I'm not an attorney, but if the attorney-client opinion was not requested as a result of active litigation or current, litigation, and it was only informational, it seems that you would waive privilege, because that lends itself to your stated policy of being open and transparent. You guys actively delayed a vote on this policy over the summer so that you all could have an opportunity to ask the attorney questions. It just seems really odd that 4 members that voted for the new policy want to keep the legal opinion and analysis a secret, and the 3 that voted against it want to share the legal opinion and analysis. It just makes it look suspicious. Just please release it, otherwise it looks like you're hiding something. Further complicating the issue, I believe a couple of you who voted not to release it leaked it to members of the SEA and to the public. Unfortunately for you, at least one of them had the poor taste to talk about it online. So now that poses the question, does this mean attorney-client privilege has already been waived by default? And then on a separate issue, not pertaining to that, it's come to my attention that one of the new school board member candidates is violating policy 1115, no campaigning in our school buildings. The policy passage specifically reads, quote, "The board prohibits campaigning in its school buildings by individual candidates and or parties for local, state, and federal elections except during all candidate forums and as may be other authorized by law." The incident took place recently at Stafford High. I'd like to see a copy of the reprimand letter, and if one has not been issued, I'd like to know why, and if there's a conflict of interest with the superintendent. Thank you.
Fun times. Paul Waldowski, 8 Pickett Lane. Now, I would like, 6 minutes or 9 minutes, but I do appreciate the bus drivers. But let me give you a couple of aspects. Where's Waldo? He's 32 years old, and he still wears red, white, and blue. So that's the change you really want. I don't like waivers of any kind. It's called favoritism. That's why Lady Justice wears a blindfold, to be fair and transparent. Yes, you are hiding something. I never even came to that meeting. I watched it on TV. And I won't even get into that aspect. But I want to support those bus drivers, and you need to realize that every career has the apprentice, the journeyman, and the master bus driver. I heard two of them. One was 20 years and 24 years, and that sounds to me like master carpenters to me. And if you're treating the apprentice at $17.48 or $17.50 an hour, and they have to quit, then you don't have an issue, you have an opportunity. And I keep telling elected politicians there are no issues, there are opportunities. And I believe you have 1,461 days. And I urge each of you to get out and vote on November 5th, 2019, because that's 41 days away, because that's the only way you make change. Many of you weren't in this county when they purged the whole Board of Supervisors. It was just really amazing how all of them lost. It was a really neat thing because it made people readdress and do things. Always remember, Waldo wears red, white, and blue. He's an independent. I'm not campaigning. Republicans wear red. They're dominating this county. They're just part of a whole system. The Democrats wear blue, but Waldo wears red, white, and blue like all independents because he's open-minded. And I'm providing solutions to each of you. Change is what's in my right pocket, and I earn it. And so do every one of these people who get up every day. And like I said earlier, I urge each of you that have given speeches today, you should have come up for the budget priorities because you all have really great ideas. Humming dehumidifiers? Come on. Grandfathers? That's what I am. But I'm the grandfather of Waldo's. And hopefully someday I'll win more than 40% of the vote.
Good evening, Adela Bertoldi, 10 Kingsley Court, Stafford, Virginia. So I'm here talking about the attorney-client privilege and the waiver thereof regarding the policy. And I know that in the last meeting, there was some confusion with respect to some of the school board members on what that meant for future and the such. And I must say, just because I am a lawyer, that I need to make it very clear that anything that I say here tonight should not be considered legal advice, because I am not giving legal advice. I'm here as an individual, as a mother of a child who is in the Stafford County school system. And I was looking up, this particular issue with respect to school boards, and, found law review articles and the such. And I want to bring a couple things up to the board, and I think need to be looked into and addressed and considered. When there is joint representation, and whether or not the school board is joint representation, I think needs to be looked into, but there is an argument that they can be. When that is the case, a joint client may waive the privilege with respect to their own communications with that joint lawyer. So what would that mean? If each one of you submitted questions and the attorney asked those questions, there may be an argument, and I suggest, and I am encouraging, especially the board members who have wanted to be transparent and to get the answers to their questions out there, to look into whether or not they can have their particular questions released with the attorney's answers to your particular questions, as long as, according to the articles that I read, you don't violate the privilege of other board members. Again, whether or not that applies on the joint representation is left to debate, and I suggest that that might be something to be looked into. The other thing is Dillon rule came to my mind, because the other bone of contention I brought up last time I was here was the fact that you are the elected officials who we, as your constituents, elected to make policy, not Dr. Kisner. And Dillon rule is very specific that you cannot authorize the change of the law and give up your particular rights for others to make those decisions. Whether or not Dillon rule applies here, I don't know with respect to the school board, but I think that that is a valid question on whether or not that the policy can actually, you can actually divulge your own
rights to make public policy, which is what you are here to do and what you were elected by us to do, in the hands of somebody else. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Whitley is the last speaker who signed up, so if there's anyone who would like to address the board, after Mr. Whitley, please line up and come forward when he finishes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Tim Whitley. I live at 109 Healy Court in the townhomes of Hampton Oaks. But first, I'd like to support the bus drivers here. My sixth grader came home from Stafford Middle School the other day saying that one of the parents had berated a bus driver. He was an hour late. The day before that, he was 30 minutes late. We had no notification of either of those incidences. I don't blame that parent for being upset, but again, the abuse that the bus drivers take, both from children and parents, is part of the problem here. And I will tell you from my experience that another part of the problem seems to be an issue of management. As a manager of large groups of people, I know what it is to hire and retain staff. You all, I am grateful for y'all being here and for the job that you're committed to do. But if you don't have significant management experience, maybe some of that should be outsourced to some extent, because only through good management are you going to be able to recruit, hire, and retain the people that we need. And having worked for Fairfax County Public Schools, I can tell you that that was their ultimate solution, because they had exactly the same problem. Now, getting to Hampton Oaks. The two ladies who addressed this issue before me were very eloquent and very on point with what they said. I want to go to a little bit of a deeper issue. When we raise and educate our kids, we are all part of a community. When we allow our children to go to an elementary school for 6 years, invest in the community of that elementary school, and then strip them of every relationship that has been nurtured for those 6 years by moving them to a school that is 6 miles away instead of 2 miles away, we're not doing our jobs. It's as simple as that. Regardless of how grateful I am for what y'all do, we are failing the students when we take away that sense of community and that continuity. We all know that going into middle school can be a trying time for a young person. Why would we do that to them? Why would we take away the friendships that they've had and nurtured for all these years and put them in an uncomfortable position? I can also tell you that other than my child, none of those children who live in Hampton Oaks are engaged in any extracurricular activities before or after school. Why? Because to get there early during rush hour, you got to go through Courthouse Road with all the commuter lots and all the lights, and it can take 40 minutes. Same thing coming home at night. And again, that goes to our sense of community, right? We need to invest in what's best for the child. I know y'all have numbers y'all got to think about, but no number means more than that one child, let alone a whole community of children. So I'm asking that you just not reconsider this move, but it needs to be changed, or you have failed at your jobs.
All right, would the other speakers who come up, please give us your name and address before you start, and when you finish, sign the sheet.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Kisner, Madam Chair. My name is Terry Potter. I'm in the Falmouth District. I'm the chairperson for the SCA Transportation ESP Caucus. In other words, your bus drivers and monitors. I want to thank Dr. Kisner, Chairman Healy, Dr. Chase, and Chris Fulmer for coming to transportation this morning. We appreciate you wanting to listen to our concerns, and we look forward to working with you to find long-term solutions to the driver shortage problem. First, I think we can all agree we need to be competitive at the entry level to get them in the door. But just raising the starting pay does not show the veteran drivers that you value their loyalty and experience. Driving a school bus is a tough business. and our drivers should be compensated for their hard work and dedication. We have students that do not listen, are disrespectful, and actually call their bus drivers every name under the sun. We have parents boarding buses, yelling and cursing at our drivers. I'm one of them. On top of all of that, we have Stafford traffic to deal with. While we need to be competitive with Prince William or Spotsy, increasing starting pay may make us competitive at the entry level. You're leaving your veteran drivers feeling slighted and unappreciated. How competitive are we at the 5, 10, 15, or even 25-year level of experience? As a driver trainer with 25 years of experience, with the 5% increase this year, I make $22.09. If I were to go north to Prince William County, I would enter their pay scale at the 16+ level and could be paid $26.70 an hour. That's $4.61 per hour more. For my 6.5-hour-a-day contract, I would make $30 more a day, or $5,394 more a year. We do not even have a pay scale that makes any sense. We have drivers with the same number of years experience, but make different hourly pay. If I were to call up Stafford Transportation and ask what a 25-year driver would make, what would you tell me? Would you even know how to find out the answer to my question? I can't make heads or tails of our so-called pay scale. With the start of the school year this year in August, how much money was spent on air conditioning the schools, with temps outside ranging from 90 to 95 degrees daily for nearly 3 weeks straight? It was said that if we start early, you would retrofit buses with air conditioning. Between the bottles of water and the heat, my little kids were getting off the bus looking like they had just gotten out of the pool. They were soaked in sweat and water that was being sprayed on them, spilled on them, or outright poured on them. We also need to consider our monitors. Some of our buses can't roll without their right-hand man or woman. We do appreciate that you are trying to solve the driver shortage. However, by increasing the starting pay and not recognizing your veteran drivers for their experience and loyalty is not good enough. A pay increase should be equitable across the board. It's the only fair way to compensate your drivers and monitors. Thank you for moving agenda item 10.01 to information so that we can come up with some common sense solutions to keep the wheels on the bus going round and round. Thank you.
Terry. Ms. Potter, hello, we need you to sign in when you finish. Thank you.
Hi, how did you all? My name's Katrina Baton, and I'm at 46 Dons Way in Stafford, and I'm a parent of this beautiful 6-year-old, and we moved to Stafford because of your school systems. It's been an issue with the buses, and as of Friday, he's now going to be a car rider because, like they said, and thank you so much, all you bus drivers that are here, it's just not safe for anyone on the school buses. The kids are talking about the kids in the back jumping up, punching each other in the head, the little ones crawling under the seats. The little bit of research that I did in the last 3 weeks that he's been involved in the bus system, there's been stories on Fox News last year about issues. The video that went viral with the girl with all the kids in the school bus. Whatever it takes, please listen to your bus drivers. Please listen to your experienced teachers. I moved to Stafford for the schools, and I don't want to have to leave Stafford because of the schools. Thank you.
Just a quick admin, really quick, because we all really support you all. We really do, right? One of the numbers issue seems to be money, as always, right?
Excuse me, sir. We haven't finished our public comment period.
I'm sorry. I thought you did.
We have people lined up. But you're welcome to submit, any remarks that you want to the clerk, and she can make them part of the record.
All right, well, you got a county full of parents, right, who are willing to go on the line and pay more money to help you do your job. Use them.
Thank you. All right.
Good evening, George Schlegel, 35 Wincott Lane, Stafford, Virginia, in the never-ending Brook Road construction zone. Okay, I did not make it to the town hall today because I was training a potential new driver. How can we hire new people at this rate who see 20-year drivers making less than $1 more than they do? What is their incentive to stay? $1 in 20 years? At one point, we could say, well, Spotsylvania pays more, but they only give you 4 hours a day. Now, they pay more, and that 4 hours a day is more than we take home with 6.5 hours a day. So we can't keep people. We need to take care of the people that we have, and then we need to get new people in. If the pay increase for new drivers went in without any addition to existing drivers, I would be making 90 cents more an hour than the people I train. I really appreciate you coming by transportation today. I wish I could have been there to voice my opinions there. And I do want to thank you for everything that you do for us. And I'm not going to be, because I'm not going to be up here that long, because I need to go home and go to bed because 4:30 comes early. Thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Rachel O'Mara Paddock, and I am in the Hartwood District. I'm also a teacher here in Stafford County. I was not planning on speaking tonight, but I really felt compelled to come, first of all, and say thank you to all of our bus drivers, whether you're new in the county, whether you've been here for years, we appreciate everything you do. As an educator in this district and as a Stafford County parent, I can tell you, I have 2 children that attend Colonial Forge High School. They do not ride the bus because the bus has no seats. My son, both of them, would wind up sitting on the floor from Stafford Lakes neighborhood to Colonial Forge. Not safe. So instead, I got my 16-year-old he got his driver's license, and I bought him a new car so that he could transport himself and my other son to school every day. I'm a teacher. I am at school until between 4:15 and 4:30 every day because our bus routes run so late, because our bus drivers are working so hard. Again, I'm a teacher. I have parents in my classroom who have decided to not allow their child to ride the bus for an hour from Hampton Oaks to wherever they live in our new redistricted area. I believe they live in the harbor, because it takes an hour for the child to get home, and the child cannot tolerate at 6 the hour-long bus ride to get home. It is becoming extremely prevalent in this county to have problems, whether it's in the schools themselves with our educators and retaining educators, or if we're retaining bus drivers and getting new bus drivers in, and it's time to do something about it. So I'm really glad that you met with the bus drivers today, but just from a parent and an educator, there are huge problems, because if I'm only one and have had 3 issues, that's pretty big odds. Thanks, guys.
Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period and come to the board for board reports and comments. Do we have any board committee reports?
Yes, I do.
Ms. Young.
Hello. So the FAB, which is the Finance and Budget Committee, that's our group. But the board met on the 27th of June to discuss the projects and place them in priority order as a draft. On August the 24th, the board reviewed the draft and suggested edits. The FAB met on September the 9th, reviewed the accomplishments for FY20. We looked at salary and market enhancements. We looked at bus driver salary increases and recruitment. Unfortunately, FAB came up with a plan, and it's going to take us some more time to unpack the issues since, our colleagues met with the bus drivers. So we have school safety is another priority that remains on our list. We also discussed conversion of bathrooms. This list was sent to all the board members. Newer schools already have unisex bathrooms, and other schools just created one. The board had another work session on September the 17th where we discussed the CIP. That large CIP list was sent across the street to the Board of Supervisors with high school number 6 and elementary number 18 as priorities. I sent an email out to the board for additional ideas, and I received some of those. And it includes, let me see, ELL and ESI, so basic, ESL. So basically English as a second language and the support that they need. There are different levels, so we need to make sure that we distinguish between the two and the tiers. So we also need to look at the ones that need to wait several years so that they could get matching funds from the state. So we need to make sure that we support those schools. I'm looking at Dr. Kisner. So that's more work that needs to be done in that area also, so that, we need to look at those tiers. Continue the initiative, class size reduction for free and reduced lunch, for those that don't meet that 3 year that need, the 3 years that they need to qualify. Also safety, we had a safety work session today, closed doors, so that is also on our list, very, very important to keep our kids safe. And of course, continue to keep salaries competitive. Administrative assistants, they need a higher scale. And my pet peeve, or it's not a pet peeve really, but we need more counselors in the state. The state mandates those, but we just need higher numbers of those. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Young. All right, legislative.
I'll defer my comments till we get to the agenda item. I'll just hit the highlights there. I think it's easier.
All right, thank you. No other committee reports? That brings us to board member comments. Ms. Egan, do you want to start us?
I'll defer.
Mr. McOsker.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Good comments tonight by all. We have some work to do with bus driver, paraprofessional pay scales. I still, I made a lot of votes over 8 years, and there's not many that I said, boy, I wish I didn't make that vote. Boy, I wish I didn't make the cell phone vote, say no every time to cell phones in schools. I wish I didn't say it, I'm not going to change that vote. I wish I didn't change the vote where I said, hey, starting school early with the buses, with no air conditioning, and all the things that go, I'm not going to change that vote either. Saying no to early start, because the costs didn't outweigh the benefits. And the list goes on and on and on. There's not a vote that I've made that, over my time here, that I would change. And I'll tell you, every year we fight in that room back there about budget priorities, and we're going to see budget priorities tonight. And we talk about para, we talk about bus driver and monitor pay, and it always slides to not giving them enough money, in my opinion, over the years. And I've said it over and over and over again, but it always seems that other stuff comes up until the brakes are, the buses, the wheels on the bus are not going round and round, and then it all comes to a screeching halt. So we got two super candidates for my position. Both of them in the audience tonight, Susan Randall and Carol Huebner-Medawar, for this position, and I hope, they're both professionals, and I hope when they get into this seat, they continue to fight for the service employees as well as the teachers, because I'll tell you, just as much as the teachers can make a school come to a halt, the service employees can as well, and that's for sure. All right, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. McOsker. Dr. Chase.
Hello. It was wonderful yesterday to attend the ribbon cutting for the North Star Early Childhood Education Center. It was great to see Supervisors Meg Bomke, Cindy Shelton, and Jack Cavalier there. This project is really a great example of our two boards working together for the good of the children in Stafford County Schools. And we had a surprise visitor, First Lady Pamela Northam. Early childhood education has been one of her top initiatives since her husband became governor, and so she stopped by to bring attention to this. I want to thank Kathy Massey and her team at North Star and Rising Star, and Cherie Johnson and her team in communications for organizing such a really lovely, wonderful celebration. I'd also like to thank the PTA and PTO representatives for coming out last week. In the process of that meeting, the president of the Moncure PTA mentioned they have 9 first-year teachers who needed help building their classroom libraries. I had some books I was getting rid of, so I stopped by yesterday and was really happy to get a tour of the school and see that it's coming together. And sometimes my constituents are interested in what's going on in the schools, and one of the things I learned is that Moncure has implemented a house system similar to what goes on in the Harry Potter books. And I just thought that was really a great way to build community at a school that has children coming from all over different places, right? That this is the first year that that school has had many of the students who are there. So I was really, really pleased to see that. Last Thursday, I was at the CGS Governing Board meeting. The director and staff have been working very hard to standardize homework loads across the 6 CGS sites. I also learned that AP test scores can now be used instead of SOL scores. So if a student gets a 2 on an AP exam, it's considered a pass. If they get a 3 or higher, it's considered a pass advance. And that's great for our students because it'll be fewer tests. But interestingly, AP scores are not available until mid-July, and the SOL scores are sent to the Commonwealth at the end of the school year. So Dr. Benson from King George County noted that that may have an effect on how early we get accredited, because you'll be waiting for the students who take AP exams to get their scores back in mid-July. So that was sort of interesting. Finally, the director would like to make an adjustment to the requirements to get the governor's school seal on a student's diploma. She wants to add a requirement that students have a passing grade on their culminating research course. And so this will be coming to the next board meeting for information and then action following that meeting, in the following meeting. So please reach out to your constituents for their input. And then, yeah, that's all I've got. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Young.
Well, Dr. Chase said it all. So North Star, that was great yesterday, and we had fun. I also want to thank all the volunteers that came out to the committees, and I know they come from long ways, commuters. I'm one, and so it takes some strength to be there, so I really, truly appreciate all of them. I'm on 2 of those committees this year, so I will be seeing you all, running in one and coming out the other. And that's all I have. I'll just keep it short.
Thank you. Ms. Hazard.
Many of my points have been covered. I just would like to mention the Fine and Performing Arts art show is this week on Thursday. As you see all of our wonderful artwork throughout the building, they are, of course, from the best artists ever, our students, so those go up every year. It's one fun welcoming the artists in every year, so if you're ever here, make sure you look at the walls, because we have wonderful things posted. Just to hit the PTA input, that's always thank you to those leaders in our schools. You are such an important part of what we do, and we really welcome your partnership. North Star opening has been covered. It was amazing. It's wonderful to see that vision finally reached. But I would say, with all the excitement, and I love that building, I do think we as a board at some point are going to have to re-examine the Melchers building as we move forward. I do think we may want to move that onto our CIP in the future, and I neglected to bring that up before, so I do apologize. But I think when I was there, I felt very, I don't know, it sort of slapped me in the face, to be honest, that we maybe need to look at that. I'll reserve my comments about my comments on the bus drivers till we get to the information item. And just saying to all of our high schoolers, I know the homecomings are up. Be safe, be good on the roads, and we want you all here for the rest of your year, and especially your senior year. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, I think you all covered all the meetings. I'd forgotten how busy we've been the past 2 weeks. No wonder we're so tired at night. It was quite a surprise to see the governor's wife at North Star yesterday. Very pleasant surprise, and I actually enjoyed reading in the Freelance Star about her background as a science teacher and how involved she's been in education. And clearly, the early childhood education is of great interest to Mrs. Northam, and we very much appreciate her her coming, and all our people that were there as well. Quite a few of our families and our students were there to help celebrate. And the best part was Mrs. Massey cutting the ribbon with all the little kids there. I can't wait to see those pictures. Also wanted to thank Dr. Kisner for allowing us to come to the meeting today. When he told me he was going to be meeting with transportation, I asked if it would be possible for me to come. And then, he opened that invitation, and then I extended my invitation to Dr. Chase. And the reason for that is so that we could hear firsthand. I mean, we were there to listen. And I think we certainly heard a lot of what was said. And I think it goes a long way in being able to move forward. And really, Dr. Kisner, I'm sure he's got his cards that he asked everybody. He used an adjective. Yes, I'm not sure I could repeat it correctly, so I won't repeat it. But anyway, he was somewhat joking, but he was serious. He brought these little index cards that he wanted people to fill out and express their concerns, whether they had expressed them or not, or any suggestions. And he ended the meeting on a positive vote. And note the final thought was, we're here because we love the kids. That summed it all up about the bus drivers, notwithstanding the abuse. And I had no idea. I had no idea that there was abuse of our bus drivers, and that concerns me greatly. So I'm sure. Dr. Kisner is going to be following up. As I mentioned to somebody, the school board has 2 employees. That's Dr. Kisner and Missy, Miss Hall. So they work for us. Everybody else works for the superintendent. But we will be sharing the information with our board in open meetings. And we couldn't have more than 2 of us there without having announced it 3 days ahead and, inviting, anybody who wants to come in. And there wasn't that much room left in that room. But anyway, thank you for having us, and your voices will be not forgotten. Also wanted to talk about the implementation plan for the policies that were adopted by this board at the last meeting. I think everybody knows I was disappointed that the board did not choose to retain approval authority on that implementation plan. Indeed, it was left with the superintendent with the input and review of the board. And Dr. Kisner has reached out. We've received emails inviting us to meet one-on-one or two-on-two with him to give our input. And I would like to publicly ask Dr. Kisner to reconsider that and have the board give input in a public meeting. I think that the matter is of great interest, great concern to our public, to our community, and the fact that our input is being sought is important. But I would like to know what my fellow board members, are saying, because I can't respond if I don't hear it. And it's one thing for us to meet individually or, two-on-one with you, but that doesn't give us the benefit as a board of hearing the input from all the members. So that I have not discussed this with other board members, but it would be important to me. And I think in the interest of transparency, in the interest of sharing this and keeping the public, up to date and aware, of what's going on, I think it's something that we owe to the public. I also would consider, ask you to consider having a public hearing, having an open forum, whether you want to call it a town meeting, what do we call those things that town hall, where you go out and listen, or a formal public hearing to get input from the public, because I think that there is an interest. I think it's very clear that this community cares very much about every single child in our school system. That came across loud and clear to me. But they also have an interest on, how we're going to be moving forward. So that would be my request, and I know you wanted to do this in October. There still could be time. But to do this meeting individually or even in groups of 2 with the board does not give us the benefit of hearing the input. Now, I know you have, from this board, the final authority on that. But I would ask as a community member, as a member of this community, that be something that, that be open and available for anyone that wants to sit in to listen, or also to provide input. So that's all my comments. Thank you. Brings us to the superintendent's comments.
Okay, I do have a few comments today. Just to follow up on the PTA meeting, tomorrow, and I'll send a copy to the board, I've been working with our staff to address the major questions or major issues that the PTO brought up: mulch, playground equipment, furniture, and so on, shade, and things like that, just to give them an answer, but also give them a process. So, for example, if they're purchasing something, work with Chris, we may be able to get a better price, make sure we're following the procurement procedure, and so on. We are going to pilot a program at North Stafford High School in Phoenix, an evening program. We have children who have discontinued their education, dropped out. These children, they're young adults, to be honest with you, 18 and older. Well, it's actually 16 and older. Give them another opportunity, and hopefully they'll be successful. Some of these students are just 1 or 2 credits away from graduating. They have jobs during the day. They have a life priority that they must do. And so I think we're going to start it in a couple of weeks. I do want to talk a little bit about a lot of the issues that you're talking about, just so you know how I kind of think of things. I kind of think of things more in a system change and not individual changes. So I heard about Hampton Oaks today. I heard about lake buses. I hear about, these middle school islands. The pay scale, which I would just tell you, it's easy for me to say this because I wasn't here, and I thank people. I don't know how long I still get away with this thing like you inherited. But there was a point in time where I've learned in leadership, if there was a mistake made, you don't keep trying to make that mistake better, because you try to just say, okay, we tried our best, we have new information, and it doesn't appear to be working. We hear this about the bus drivers. You could talk about administrative assistants. You could pick your service group, in a sense, and that pay scale, I know it's new, we just had to study, but honestly, I've never personally have seen a document that's so remarkably confusing, and secondly, we can't implement. So that creates a lot of angst among our staff, because they see something, they're smart, they can read it, and then what we're actually able to do is not anything close to it. So going back to the system things and transportation, I've talked to Barry about this a couple times. I've talked to a lot of my colleagues, especially colleagues in larger school systems, to see, okay, we just want to say right now, and I respect greatly the input that we got today in letters. Our transportation challenge might be we just need more drivers. Well, that might be true, or it might be other things also, like looking at our routes, looking at our grade configurations that we have on the buses. There's a lot of things that we need to look at before we conclude that just having more drivers is going to be the answer. I know where I live, just to give an example, I actually had a parent tell me this. Where I live on my corner, this parent has a preschool child, an elementary school, middle school, and high school. 4 buses come to pick up their kids. 4 buses. I've talked to a lot of school systems that do it differently. I'm not making any suggestions. I'm just suggesting we need somebody out. I'm not a huge fan of consultants, but in this case I am. Somebody who has a lot of experience in large transportation models to spend time evaluating the way we're doing it and be able to offer the board other ways to think about it. Because right now, I think the issue is much greater than just having additional drivers. So I want to make sure I get that point out there. And again, we heard tonight, and I know you guys mentioned briefly during your elementary redistricting, that there will be a time we'll have to look at middle school. And I think, again, you can't do that in isolation of your bus routes. Okay, so that's why I'm just going to work with you to try to give you the information that you need to maybe look at things more holistically than just in piecemeal. Besides that, I know as a school board member and often a superintendent, we just tend to hear things that are not working. I do want to remind everyone that we have 33 sites, and there's a lot of good things that are taking place. And I talked to Shirley the other day and our chiefs of elementary, middle, and high school. We need to do a more effective job of promoting the things that are doing really well. Tonight was a great example, but of highlighting our successes. The community values the school systems. We've heard now for 3 weeks in a row they want to be a partner with us in our quest, and this is how I'm going to end it. So last week when we met with the PTO people, we thought we had $200,000 for furniture. $200,000. Remember they talked about this furniture. We only have $150,000 for furniture. I could share with you, just to furnish maybe 5 classrooms, that will take you $150,000. We cannot lose sight of, nor should we, of our per pupil expenditure. We are just kidding ourselves to believe that doesn't have impact. And I know there are people that come up here and tell us how we should do things differently. They also tell us that we're spending money and we have too much money and we're spending it the wrong way, and they actually make those comments to our elected officials. I am telling you unequivocally that a lot of the challenges we have, from salaries that they deserve to better furniture, more mulch, better technology, is due to our per pupil expenditure. Do not kid yourself. If we were just other school systems north or south of us, we would have $15 to $40 million more. So I hope in our budget deliberations, and I know you have that as one of our goals, that we will really see this as a priority. Thank you for letting me ramble a little bit.
Thank you. That brings us to our action items. The first action item is approval of the infrastructure 3R listing. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. McOsker. Second. Second by Ms. Young. Discussion.
Ms. Healy,
Ms.
but I
Heiser.
want to give the motion makers first. No?
Go
Okay,
ahead.
okay, well, usually we do.
Did you want to say anything, Mr. McOsker, Ms. Young?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Last December 4th, we moved some items in order to be able to do Ferry Farm Elementary. One of those projects was to repair the track at Mountain View High School. I do not see this project on this list to be bonded. Maybe it is somewhere else, but I do see that the repair, the interior finishes at HH Pool is on our 3R list. Although I just need to make sure that that project is covered, because how this was done was that project was to slide. And I believe it's supposed to be near the top of the list. And maybe the copy I have doesn't have it, but I really did look.
No, it's actually this spring, so it's in FY '20, so it wouldn't be on this list.
Okay, however.
So it's approved, Mr.?
We would borrow the money in the spring, so we just borrowed the money for like Ferry Farm with the fall borrow, so it's on the spring borrow with BPSA proceeds.
Okay.
So this is starting in the fall and spring of FY '21.
This is 21, so. you're
Correct.
actually
That's not the current year, yeah.
But I just wanted to clarify, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but so Mountain View High School track is getting done now and it will be part of the fall borrow, or I'm sorry, the spring borrow.
Spring borrow to be done over the summer.
Okay.
Could we have a breakout of what is supposed to be in the spring borrow? Not tonight, but Mr. McOsker, you may also be interested in seeing what is in that piece. And I just wanted to make sure, because that was something that we spent some time. I also wanted to just ask that AG Wright project, that was ABA compliant, and the Board of Supervisors kind of didn't approve it. I'm hoping at some point that will be come back, because remember, they kicked it back saying it was not within the scope. That was, I thought, a safety or a compliance issue. I'm not going to hold up the list tonight, but I just want to make sure that piece of that project does not get lost.
All right, I'll look into that too.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And Dr. Kisner, could you just send us that in a memo? We won't have to wait till the next meeting to get that answer. Thank you. Mr. McOsker, did you have something you wanted to add?
Nope.
Dr. Chase?
So I I last year asked for this list to also be sort of sorted, it's a spreadsheet, sorted by school, so that you could kind of see that, because I think that's useful. Sometimes board members feel like a particular school isn't getting the love, and seeing it by school gives you a little feel for just how much funding is being proposed for each school in the future. And I understand that a school like Stafford High School is still very new, and so there aren't going to be a lot of projects there. And a school like North Stafford's very old, and there are going to be a lot of projects there. But it's just sometimes useful to get that kind of view when we look at this list as well. So not just by year of proposed work, but all the work that's being proposed at each school in just sort of a quick glance.
The only clarification I have with that was what was spoke to earlier was that would be difficult if, let's just say, the replace the chiller is priority 1, but the second for Rock Hill or whatever is not the same priority. Because I understood this was to be a priority list from top to bottom. If that's not the case, then yeah, that's perfect. Because as we know, over the years, history is we get, what, 5 million, 4 million, 3 million? And so the majority of the FY21 stuff probably will not be done. And so, anyway, that's my point.
Thank you. Ms. Young, did you have anything? I just have a comment on the last item on the list, just replacing a walk-in freezer and refrigerators at one of our elementary schools, and it's not the one that was addressed by Ms. Randall earlier this evening. I would ask you, Dr. Kisner, if you could check into the refrigerator that may be grandfathered. Just not for an answer tonight, but if that's something we need to do. I noticed that the replacing the walk-in freezer and refrigerators at Winding Creek is going to be funded by nutrition. And while I very much appreciate nutrition funding these things in the kitchens, I do think that they're Stafford County Public Schools' responsibility. So if there is not enough money in the nutrition budget to do these things and they need to be replaced, then we need to look into funding for those. So if we could just, get a response, back on that. I'm not going to put it on here because it's probably not even enough money that couldn't be found somewhere if we really needed to do it. But I don't want to put too much of a burden of expectation on the nutrition folks to have to fund these things. I mean, traditionally, they've funded hoods and all kinds of things that amazes me that they can even come up with that funding to do it. So if we could just look into that, I'd appreciate it. Yes.
And if I can, real quick, I just want to clarify that on the very first year, at the very bottom, and this might be kind of what you're referring to, I was just looking at this with John, and we reorganized some stuff. The funding source for those last 2 items are actually swapped. So the Winding Creek Elementary School walk-in freezer is actually the nutrition capital funding, and the one above that's for that is the repair main road entrances.
You don't want to tell me, Mr. Fulmer, that what I'm looking at is not accurate.
I am telling you because I want to tell you that before you approve it, and that is something literally.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the only change?
That is the only change, yes, ma'am. I looked through the rest of them are fine. That was when they were changing the priority order.
So you
when
said
they
something
met
was
earlier.
swapped, is nutrition
It's
funding
just
something else?
that funding source. So nutrition funding always covers our walk-in freezers.
Right, but this says and refrigerators.
Yes, ma'am, the freezers and refrigerators.
So the nutrition covers it, but if nutrition can't afford it, then we need to do it as the schools. I'm
Correct, we would.
speaking for myself, I think that's important.
Yeah, a few years ago, it used to be that nutrition contributed about $200,000 a year to our operating fund to help cover the overhead expenses that as far as management and stuff, that the operating fund covers for nutrition. And we eliminated that and then asked nutrition to pick up some of their capital funding in place of that $200,000 operating.
Okay, and as long as I'm off this subject and we're talking about kitchens, when are we going to get a report on the financing the air conditioning?
I can check on, I don't know, John, if I can ask John if he's gotten an update on the
We can just get back to us on that,
report.
because I do not, yes, it's cooling off and we're not thinking of air conditioning, but we need to get
Talking
that
about the
report so we
kitchen
can.
AC, correct, the
Yes,
final
kitchen
report?
all the kitchens that are not currently air conditioned.
Yes, ma'am.
All 9 of them?
By this Friday, I'll get you an update.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, sorry to digress, but if there's no further discussion, all in favor of the motion to approve 3R infrastructure list, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That brings us to 10.02, direct the superintendent to send a letter to county administrator regarding FY19 year-end carryover funds.
Move to approve item 10.02, the letter sent to the county administrator regarding FY19 year-end carryover funds.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Chase, second by Ms. Young. Any discussion?
Yes, Ms. Healy, I do.
Yes, Ms. Hazard.
With regard to the VoIP telephone system, and I know it's interrelated to the 3R list, when can that project be done? And I know it says it's a $2 million figure. Is it a project to be all done at the same time over next summer, or is this a phased kind of project? What is it?
It's a phase, but most.
So we've actually looked at a number of different scenarios. Right now, it could be done in 1 year, but wouldn't necessarily be done in the span of one summer. So we would obviously be having to delicately schedule around, or minimize the disruption at schools while school was actively underway. There's also a plan that extends it out over 3 years. But that would actually drive up the total cost of the project if we had to run multiple systems for that long. So we've got a number of scenarios. The $2 million, and I've worked with Mr. Fulmer on this extensively over the last 10 months, is actually allows us to implement the whole project within a 1 year span.
Okay. My thinking on this is, I'm not trying to override this. However, if this is a project, for me, I would be very uncomfortable with a phone system being worked on during a school year when we have students inside a building. We all remember the first day of school and half the systems. I have heard tonight, and I completely agree with Dr. Kisner, that we need to outsource a study on our transportation system. I believe this is a project that we need now, and we need to start implementing. I think we would get buy-in, and we probably do in general. If this project can be divided, or if it's better to be divided, and like I said, I don't know, I would prefer to have some kind of caveat here about further analysis of that $2 million, because it's also on our 3R list of saying, to me, the most important thing we can use money that we haven't budgeted for is to get this study started and outsourced at the beginning of the year. Maybe the Board of Supervisors would let us do the RFP now, knowing they won't release the funds. So I am just throwing that out to our board as an idea, because I think it's critical, because we don't have that kind of money sitting, well, I mean, we would be diverting it from something else. I am not trying to divert it from a telephone system, but if it is not one we can implement, how can we say we want carry forward funds to implement half the project? That's just where my thinking is. I just want, I feel like I need to throw that out, because this is our shot to ask the Board of Supervisors for money, and they are hearing, or at least my supervisor is, about buses and the challenges. I think I have somebody ready, I think they would be open to it, but Dr. Kisner, I defer, but I completely agree with you on the outsourcing, but I'm not sure how, I can't imagine that's a cheap contract, and I don't want to go cheap. I want the best, and I want it done right, and if that means we need to say, we want to have the RFP on the streets, so the moment they approve this money in January, it can be on the streets, I'm willing to ask for that money now.
Madam Chair, so, no, that's, I think, and I know we're going to get to talking a little bit about the, but I think we need to know the problem, and we've heard some of the problems. Define the problem a little bit better before we jump to outsourcing where you hire two folks or come on the bus and they come back to us and they go, hey, they're treating the bus drivers not nice, and they're cursing at them, and you're not paying them enough. And, well, okay, well, yeah, we kind of know that. What else do you got for me? So I don't know. I'm just concerned about, and if Dr. Kisner has the opportunity to kind of talk about this discipline problem on the bus. We have cameras on the buses. We have, you know, a couple of kids get kicked out of school for, you know, that's going to hopefully that might tighten the ship up real quick. I don't know. So that's just my concern, is to jump right into a contract of which the problem is ill-defined.
I may have misspoken. I meant outsource a consultant to study, because I have heard from bus drivers that it is not just the students, it is maintenance, it is buses not working. That's a huge overhaul of transportation. I misspoke when I said outsource. I didn't mean outsource of the position. I meant,
No,
I think we need to go outside to.
I understand
okay,
what you said.
I just want to make sure.
I understood outsource a contractor to come in to say, hey, these are the things that,
But
okay.
just something for us to think about.
Yep.
I think, but I just.
Okay, Ms. Young?
Yeah, I was just going to ask about the timing. I was thinking the same thing like my colleague Holly here in reference to time to work on the telephone system, because I was thinking about males being in the school system. Do they work evenings, and would that reduce the time? Instead of a year, wouldn't it shrink if they were working like different hours, like they do on the roads at night?
So a lot of the implementation of the phone system, it's a combination of updating wiring in some locations, which could certainly be done off hours. That's what we did here in this building over the summer to minimize the disruption. But a great deal of the project is actually in more of the IT work, in the configuration of the VoIP system, the voice over IP system. It's certainly possible, but to Ms. Hazard's concern, we wouldn't be able to do necessarily an entire school in one night. So we would have a situation where a school might spend days or weeks in a transitionary period. And I agree that would be a higher risk situation that we would.
I will tell you, the principals would probably tell you they will be willing to be inconvenienced to get the phones at a level where that they just don't break down. It's a safety issue, it's a communication issue. I had an interesting thing today I saw. We can, if a parent calls us today about a question, we can't even transfer you from central office to a school. We had to tell a parent in 2019, oh, we could give you the number. No, everywhere I've worked, you just transfer the phone call. We want to be an A+ school system, right? But some of our functions and operations and procedures are not an A+. I wouldn't even give us a C, okay? And I'm a pretty liberal grader, okay? So we have to do this. I trust Peter and his team to work with the contractor and the principals to minimize disruption. You know, that it's hard to fix a plane while it's flying, right? We all say that. We have a short window. We can't do everything over a window. We can't do it during Christmas break. We could do some of it. We're going to have some inconvenience in order to get the long-term benefit.
So I would just, Madam Chair, one more, if you don't mind.
Of course not, Mr. McOsker.
Yeah,
And you're not even
I've only got a
limiting it
few
to
more of
Ferry
these anyway. A
Farms.
few more of these and then I go away, which does make a lot of people happy. So listen, my concern with the carryover money is the actual execution window of making sure that we get if not, we missed the fall borrow, the spring or the spring bid, so that we can actually get something done in the summertime. And so I just don't want to punt this until February and we're still kind of messing around with what are we going to do with our FY20, FY19 carryover. Yeah.
I just want to follow up on that thought, if you don't mind, Dr. Chase. We call it carryover, but we know we really don't have that money.
Right.
Once that fiscal year ends, unless the funds are, appropriated, or not, there's some word, what is it, there's
Reappropriated from
well,
the
there's certain things, if we have a contract, we can consider that, the funds can be reappropriated, but these are funds that are not appropriated in any means. So really, we are at the mercy of the supervisors to grant us the right to spend these funds, because the monies go back into the county coffers, and the supervisors have the choice of using them for other projects, as we know we've seen in the past. So I'm thinking, just looking at this, where we say we're requesting that the superintendent notify Mr. Foley of our intention to use the projected carryover funds. Perhaps we should say our desire or our intention, if approved, or our intention to request that they be reappropriated for these projects, because we need to recognize that this is not our choice. I mean, we have to be part of a team here, and, we're going to be asking the supervisors to allow us to use this money, for these purposes. So that's just something we want to think about, and this is, actually, we're not requesting the superintendent to notify Mr. Foley. We're asking him to share with the board of supervisors, our intention, if approved, or our desire, to spend it on these projects that we consider critical to the school system. So that's just something, but it follows up with the comments that you just made.
I
So,
totally appreciate that, and that's the intent, is to, if we have the three things, kind of stick with the three things, unless an emergency comes up, and we keep briefing this over and over, so the Board of Supervisors are well informed of the three projects that we've identified 10 months earlier, 8 months earlier, and that's the intent.
Dr. Chase.
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of add on with the point that Ms. Hazard brought, and it's simply, it's my understanding that we have the phone systems just randomly not working, and so I would imagine that parents would appreciate if we let them know we're going to be working on the phone system at this school for this 2-week period. That's better than just the random 14 days over the course of the year that they don't even know that the phone system is not working. So just a different perspective on it, that it may be that it'd be okay if we let people know what's going on and what the alternative is during the time that work is being done.
Any other comments, Ms. Hazard?
I just
Ms.
have
Young.
one comment. When the phones are down, those wristwatches come out and those cell phones out of the bag. So we're worried about those that don't have any, right?
Ms. Healy, would the letter, would you all accept something in the letter to the extent, trying to cover my point of, as we get more information about this $2 million system, $2 million system, we're going to have to defend when it goes, saying that is our intent, because I really do believe if we do have some emergency between now, remember, we're talking, we won't get these monies till January or February. I know what's near and dear to my heart. I've told you all what it is. But let's say we really look at this implementation schedule and it doesn't work and we can't defend it. I think we just need some, and I hate using this word, vague language that we may substitute should an emergency project arise, something to that extent that covers us, because 3 months from now, there may be something else that rises to the top.
Right, but if we say it's our desire to use it, certainly we would reserve that right to change that if an emergency came in.
That's what I would like in there, if there could be subject to some kind of.
Well, it's not even our money to begin with, as I just noted, so I think we do have to recognize that this is really within the purview of the supervisors to reappropriate this to us. I think there's been some misconception generally that carryover funds are automatically, within the school board's spending authority, and those of us who've been around a while realize that is not the case. And
I would remind you, we're trying
our
to.
job to advocate to get it back.
I agree with you, and
for
we're
what
trying
we
to get
need.
a phone service that phone system the county has. Okay, so we talk about parity. I think the Board of Supervisors will understand this. I would just offer you, we open up 2 schools, and logistically, we'll make this work. This is just a need. It's not very sexy in a sense, like put $2 million for a new phone system, but the reality is we have a phone system that's antiquated, okay? So one of the things the school board said a couple of weeks ago, we want to get this to the county quickly, so as they're discussing how they're going to spend funds, they would know that the school board has a request. Okay.
So what do we want to do? Leave it like it is, or
Yeah.
make a little tweak?
Yeah, I'm in favor of the tweak about Ms. Healy's point, that it's our wish or desire, since it is not currently our money.
Just recognizing that, but I think we really do need to emphasize that the school board has identified these as critical areas that need to be addressed, and that it is our hope, our desire that we can use the funding that we saved from the past year for these projects, because we do not have these, the money in the operating budget to address these.
So what's the
Something
word,
like that.
how are we changing it?
Sure.
So would we just approve it and then knowing that the tweaks are going to go in? I mean, instead of having to wait
Yeah,
again?
it doesn't need to come back.
Okay.
No, I think.
Okay.
If you'd like me to look at it, I can look at it.
Are we approving it or we? Okay, but
We're approving the concept.
the concept, so you're gonna work on it and maybe email?
No, I'm not going to work on it. You can work on it. I will look at it for you if you like. But I do have a day job. I know it doesn't seem like it, but that's right. That's
Listen, you
right.
got the minutes, right? I could capture what people said.
That's right.
Okay.
Lisa, you up?
I don't think she's responding. Well, thank you. All right, all in favor of the motion to approve the Dr. Kisner sending a somewhat edited version of this letter over, expressing our desire. Please say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Oh my gosh, we're moving right along here. Okay, we're still on the action items. Okay, waiver to the extent required of attorney-client privilege. All right, this one sound familiar? Ms. Hazard and I have brought this back to the board. Ms. Hazard, would you like to start this discussion, or do you have a motion?
I'll start it off with a motion so we can start discussion. I move to waive to the extent required attorney-client privilege to permit the release to the public of the following, the May 8th, 2019 email and email response, the July 12th memorandum from council, the August 5th, 2019 letter from council to the school board chairperson and members of the school board, because I believe those would be covered by privilege.
But there was a fourth item
And
on
then
there.
the list of board member questions submitted to council via the school board chair and vice chair on July 26, 2019.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Discussion.
I can,
Ms.
I guess,
Hazard.
get us started. This is an extraordinary thing to do. The board has done it in the past with regard to a financial audit that was done on behalf of the board. At that time, I felt it was in the public's best interest. There was not a lawsuit, but I felt it was in the public's best interest to know what happened during that time period regarding our finances. I believe it made us a better division by having that open and candid and painful discussion. I believe that releasing this opinion and these opinions will also help and bring further clarity to our constituents and to our community as a whole. I hope it will unite rather than divide so that we know what things we want to learn and how we can put forth the best implementation plan possible. I also want to speak to those who took the survey that was done by the SEA to the, let me make sure I have it right because I want to make sure I'm right, to the 530 of you who responded and the 70 of you who made comments. I've read every one of those comments that were given. There are a lot of questions that are raised in there that I believe may be answered or at least addressed in the responses to these legal opinions. I saw some of the things about things being unclear, appropriate places. There were 70 comments. I've highlighted them all, and I think some of them, it will provide clarity to you. the 70 of you who commented and the 530 who took the survey, some of the comfort I hope this would bring to you all, and I hope it would unite the community to make sure we get whatever implementation plans, policies, or follow-on actions, that we do it the best way possible from the most amount of knowledge.
Thank you, Ms. Hazard. Any other discussion? Ms. Egan?
The only thing I'm going to say about it, I mean, I made my position pretty clear on it. It's not going to change the vote. Nothing's going to change. It's just going to, a lot of people said we had concerns that were, they were inconsequential. Well, this might bring that to light, or the folks that said, you guys are being ridiculous about this, they might be right. They might be, see, I told you guys on the school board, we were right. So I think it would help both sides a little bit to understand where everyone's concerns were coming from. It's not going to, again, it's not going to change anything. It's not going to change the trajectory of the plan or the policy or anything else like that. So I don't think there's anything wrong with just putting it out there. It'll calm everybody's questions. So I'm gonna vote for it.
Dr. Chase?
So I think attorney-client privilege is there for a reason. I think that to put something like that up on a web page is kind of a strange thing to do, and perhaps not the most responsible thing to do. It's a weird position where we can't really talk about why we might vote one way or the other about this. And it's the hard part of being an elected official, is that sometimes you have to make a decision and then people tell you that you're not being transparent. Sometimes we shouldn't be too transparent, as in the case 4 years ago when we came out of that meeting and decided to be very transparent about a 9-year-old. And so I just think a little caution. I asked for information about when we have given waived attorney-client privilege in the past, and as far as I know, there's only one case. And I wasn't on the board at the time, so I don't really know what went on in that decision. But for me, there are reasons that I will. I don't think it's prudent for the school system for us to waive our attorney-client privilege at this time.
Sure, yeah, I'll talk, and this keeps coming back up, and it rightfully so, and I appreciate you all bringing it back up. And we love Disney, and one thing I have that, that lady singing, let it go, and that's on one side, and the other side, it's a serious matter, and I remember the case and the precedent. I didn't reread the actual release, but that was a time when it was, there was some very serious financial things going on in this division, to the tune of alleged misappropriation of funds, millions of dollars being spent and other things that the board had absolutely no idea about, and I think an alleged misdirection by some of the current staff members who are no longer here anymore of the board members, and you and I were sitting on that board during that time, and it was a terrible time where we hired an independent auditor, if you remember, for that issue as well, and the auditor.
We also actually hired an attorney.
Yeah, an attorney.
Who hired an auditor.
And the auditor came back and said a lot of things that were crazy. The records were eaten by roaches and all of the stuff. So the school could. But I'm not going to stay here and defend that precedent that we had during that horrible time in the county when we lost all that money for years and years. It was alleged by the auditor. But this isn't the time when I'm going to release this, waive my attorney-client privilege.
Michele?
You want me to speak?
If you wish.
Sure, why not? Take the opportunity. I just Googled waiver. Generally occurs when the holder of the privilege, be it the party or authorized counsel or agent, voluntarily discloses the privilege communication to a third party. Once privilege is waived as to a communication, The privilege can be waived as to all communications on the same subject matter. I will not give privilege. You know, it's like the right to vote. It's like just the right, period. And for me, I take rights seriously. You know, you don't want me to go down that road.
Okay, well, I just have a question, and I haven't looked at the minutes from the last meeting, and I apologize. Okay, well, when they are, my recollection was that you had made the motion to waive the privilege. Now, I'm not saying it was required to waive it with respect to Dr. Kisner, because I'm not here as an attorney, but that was the motion, as I recall, and if not, then I apologize, but I thought that was the motion at the last meeting.
As our agent.
Okay. All right, just wanted to clarify that. Well, y'all know where I am on this, and I would like to reiterate Ms. Egan's comments. This is not going to change the vote. The vote has been taken. The decision of a majority of the board has ruled. But I do think that there is a very strong interest of the public in knowing the information that was provided to this board. And I would compare it to the situation with the audit. At that audit, I know I had people in my community that wanted to know what's going on. You know, what happened to this money? You know, how did you get to where you were? And the board at that time chose to waive the privilege. And it is an extraordinary case, but it is the only other case in my time on the board that it has even come to the board for a discussion or consideration. So this is not something that is going to typically occur with the board. Again, it's going to be the majority vote of the board will rule here. But, you know, I want, you know, my position very clear that I think the public has a right to see it. I don't think there is any potential damage to this board. We're not involved in litigation. It is not any strategy that's being given to us if we were involved in litigation. This is advice. It's analysis. It's an opinion that was provided to us. And I don't remember any other issue other than the audit that came to this level of interest and concern by the Stafford community. And that's why I'm going to support releasing this. And Dr. Chase, many times I agree with you, but I have to say I don't agree by saying this is not the most responsible thing to do, because I think it is the responsible thing to do. This community was, you know, we went through a lot to get where we are. I'm beyond that battle at this point. We've got the policy. We're going to have an implementation plan. You heard my comments earlier asking a request. We'll see what happens with that as to the input on the implementation plan. But one thing we can do is to move forward and to provide that, share that information. And I don't think it's going to be a surprise to people. I mean, I'm hearing it's out there on some of these social medias. Y'all know I don't do social media, so I haven't seen it, but I've heard it's out there, and people are intimating that they've seen this. So I don't know, you know, who gave it to them or if they've actually seen it, but there's certainly some very strong indications. So I just think it would be the responsible thing to do. And you all remember that meeting we had in July, which was the worst meeting I've ever been to on this school board, because our public that was here to support the policy was irate. They were angry because we said, we're going to wait to issue this opinion. We're not going to, we want an opinion. We have questions. We're going to ask the lawyer. We're going to get the answers, and then we'll take a vote. So it's very clear that at least a majority of the board at that time wanted to get the answers to those questions. And I see nothing wrong with sharing it, and I think it is the responsible thing to do. And if I've heard transparency once, I've heard it hundreds of times on this board. I'm not one that uses that word, because to me that's just the way we should be anyway. But I have heard it over and over again, not just from this board, but from other board members in the past. And to me, that's transparency, where you share this information. So,
Madam Chair, may I ask
yes.
a question real quick? Can we look into some assertions that have been made on 2 separate occasions about this board approximately 5 years ago, about us coming out of a meeting and divulging the name of a student, the student in question. This board, as far as I know, did no such thing. So I'd like to put an end to this and soon.
I thought I was very clear that I did not say that we divulged the name. I said we divulged the school, we divulged the fact that the student was transgender, and we divulged what we were planning to do, as opposed to what we normally do, which is say, in the case of student A, we uphold the recommendation of the superintendent.
Okay, well, I would like to get this clarified once and for all, so if we can instruct somebody to get
Well,
get
that may
verbatim.
involve a waiver of attorney privilege, Ms. Egan, so maybe we'll bring that one back to the board. We can go further on that, but, you know, Dr. Chase, I mean, you've been here 2 years, and you've seen, well, almost 2 years, but close to 2 years, and you've certainly seen things that come in, and those student A and B and C and employee A and B, that's with respect to discipline that is before the board, that we are reporting out the actions the board has taken. The other was a completely different situation, and we'll be happy to go and get some more information for you, and we may be asking to waive privilege on that one when it comes back. But thank you, Ms. Egan. We'll if you have a second, we'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting, which I don't think you'll have a problem getting one. All right, any other discussion? All in favor to waive the attorney-client privilege, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Dr. Chase?
No.
Ms. Ms. Hazard? Yes. Ms. Healy?
Yes.
Ms. Hellerback?
Yes.
Mr. McCosker?
No.
And Ms. Young?
No.
And your motion fails as a tie.
Okay, so that means it comes back at the next meeting, correct? When we have a full board? Okay. And we'll also look into that other item that you asked for as well. All right, so that'll be coming back at the next meeting. Moving right along, approval of the school board legislative priorities
Motion to
for the
approve.
2019-20 school year. All right, let's see, who got that second in first? All right, we'll give it to Ms. Young, she's closer to my ear here. All right, so a motion and a second, any discussion?
Ms. Healy, let me just give two over. First, we talk about the cost to compete. It has been talked about time and time again that we would really like to get that going at the state level. The elimination of the 2009 support staff cap. Stafford County has lost $9.2 million over the last, since 2009, while we've had an 11% increase in students. We have some things certainly about making sure that Virginia becomes a nationwide leader in teacher and school personnel salaries. Please understand, this is school personnel salaries. We also are talking a little bit about licensure, and we did have as one of our local priorities about our pure pupil expenditure, which I hope you all will continue to hear more about. And many of you know I'm still keeping this on there, is that penalty for drivers who illegally pass the school buses. I know that our current Commonwealth's attorney does not believe that that is legal. However, we do have some support from the Board of Supervisors, and I know Spotsylvania just did it. So I'd like to bring that back. Other than that, I appreciate everybody's work on this, and I think we have a really strong going forward.
All right, your comment, Ms. Egan?
Just thank you, Holly, for spearheading this. There was a lot of work. Thank you.
Yes, in a short amount of time.
Yep.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Chairman, can I just say one thing? You get weekly or monthly from VSBA updates on legal issues. Please read the last one. It's critical. The state board is in October, we'll be making some significant changes to the standards of quality. That will drive a lot of our budget and staffing decisions, and I just think you need to be fully aware. Okay, thank you.
All right, that brings us to information items. 11.01, approval of an adjustment to bus driver hourly pay rates to address driver shortage. Well, we wanted to, well, we moved it from action to information. I don't know if you want to give the report now, Dr. Kisner, or
Well,
later, it's fine.
I think you heard a lot, so today from 11 to 12:30, I'm sorry, from 11 to 12:30. We met with many bus drivers at the Transportation Department to hear their concerns, and you heard many of them tonight. I think Ms. Hollaback's question is a good question, because we're still going to have the issues that we have come tomorrow morning. But I think what we're trying to do is try to fix something now, and at the same time, come up with something that's more long-term and effective. I already made my comments earlier. I think our salary schedule is causing great frustration, and I would like to I will, and you could reject it, but I'm going to work with my team to offer you another way of looking at it. And I really believe, and I thank Holly for being supportive, of getting someone to really examine our entire transportation operations, A to Z, so we could not come to a solution that may not be addressing the real problems. And so I do want to thank the board members. I want to thank Transportation. We are putting a team together. We'll start next week. My goal, my objective is to meet with them on a regular basis, and in one of the November board meetings, make another recommendation to the school board based on the feedback input. And then, as school board chair stated, make it retroactive October 1st, whatever is decided.
I would ask Dr. Kisner, I know it may be ambitious, but if there's any way you could try to get it back to the board for the second meeting in October, that way we could consider it, and then if we could approve it in November, we could have those checks for December.
Be nice.
Right, Mr. Fulmer?
Madam Chair, just
Depending on when.
So,
It would be nice. It would be nice.
Madam Chair. Oh, go ahead.
I said may. I didn't say shall.
Yeah, thank you, that's all.
I agree. So my comments earlier were, it's okay to, I think it's okay to have a consultant come in, and I think that's what we're talking about. I understand that. However, if there's discipline issues on the bus, my point is I don't need a consultant to, give me what was the Evergreen study? A 300-page dissertation about how we're not fixing discipline issues on the bus, or looking into the discipline issues on the bus, or maybe not supporting the bus driver when they come in with a sworn statement to the principal and say, hey, I got 4 kids on this bus that just aren't doing this. And then they go, sorry, that's your job. And that's happened, not here, but it's happened in my 55 years. Across different.
Unfortunately, I think it is happening here.
Okay, I'm just saying. So I can't prove anything, but I just wanted you to, and I know you will, to look into it, Dr.
So
Kisner.
soon as I came back from their meeting,
Yep.
I met with the 3 elementary, middle, and high school chiefs, addressed quickly the one comment, which I think I'm not going to say low-hanging fruit, but needs to be in place right away. When a bus driver makes a discipline referral, and a principal makes a decision, that principal is talking to the bus driver to help understand that decision. That lack of communication causes great frustration. I also believe that we heard, and this is, I think we all could be part of the solution on this. They also shared a lot of frustration about parents, and I know how many emails we get from parents complaining. And I'm not here to point fingers and placing blame, because we transport, I don't know, Barry once told us, 16,000, maybe 17,000 kids a day. I'm going to say they may disagree, and this is what I would like to believe, because I really think it's true. Most of our kids are actually acting correctly on the school buses. I don't want a broad, to say every kid on the bus is acting like an animal. I hate to use that term, but can't think of something else. I'm tired. But when we have a kid that did what we heard, and I'm not going to repeat those words, that kid to me should be off the bus for a very long time. And a bus ride is a requirement until you lose a privilege, okay? So you lose a privilege when you act that disgusting. And the parent has to come in and understand it. And I say this because I believe it. If we have to make it uncomfortable for parents, and I share this at this meeting, and I'll just end it on this. An elementary principal, Mr. Hicks, When I read last week that he had to ride the bus in Quire Harbor because kids are misbehaving, I cannot believe that parents of 6-year-olds to 10, 11-year-olds are not having a conversation with their kids of their expectation of riding a bus. Why is our principal leaving the building to ride a bus to tell children of parents how to behave? So I wouldn't mind having a community forum and discussion about a compact and responsibility. If we want to do it, we have to do it big and we have to do it system, not pointing fingers. But I could just talk about this too long, but I would just say we have so many issues. And getting kids to point A to B for a lot of our routes are a challenge. And I want to make sure it's not to some logistic concern that the buses are going the wrong way. We have buses going where they shouldn't be going. And I don't know this. I would ask, I know driving around Stafford, even my short 13 months here, has become more and more challenging. And I just wonder a little bit, not a little bit, I actually wonder this a lot, if we overpromised. If we overpromised. How many of you come from DC area and have a difficult time, understandably so, get here when the meeting starts, okay? And so I think we set the bus drivers and transportation with an unrealistic expectation that we were going to get you here to there. That was an aspiration that I'm glad we did, but now we have to own it, that is very, very difficult, if not unrealistic. Again, I don't have the solutions, but I'm just saying that is one of the frustrations parents are feeling like. You said it's going to be here at 45 minutes, and now it's taking an hour and 20 minutes. Well, maybe the hour and 20 minutes was always the right answer.
Madam Chair? I didn't say anything during the member comment because I was saving it for this, so I would just like to just get this off. First, I want to thank everybody for not just taking this off the agenda. I think it was very important for us to have this conversation tonight for a lot of reasons. I'll use that word, transparency, that we are having these conversations, because the optics, just to pull it off the agenda and not say anything about it, parents' heads would have exploded. My head was exploding when I found out that it was being pulled, with no discussion. I wasn't there for the conversation yesterday, so I wasn't privileged to all of the discussions that were had. So I'm glad this is being put out there now so that everyone can hear that, yes, we are doing something about it. But it still doesn't take away the fact that we still have a problem, and we still need to think outside of the box on how we can fit it. That's a long-term solution, and I'm so glad that everybody's working together. I would love to be a part of that conversation. I have every year, we put bus drivers and monitors on in the budget for increased salaries, and every year I voted for it. Unfortunately, whatever happened to it happened. The point is that we need to be doing something now to even if it's a temporary fix. Somebody mentioned, and I thought about this afternoon, we have these private bus companies that work for school divisions throughout the state. Why can't we do a short-term contract just to fill the void until we can get all of these things ironed out so that our bus drivers aren't having to do double runs, our teachers aren't having to stay there till 4:30, 5 o'clock at night? What are the options that we haven't considered that might be able just to fill this little void here until we can actually fix this?
And what would the school board and how would the public react if we set aside sports and after-school programs, which takes a lot of our buses off the late afternoons? I mean, I guess I'm really just trying to say is everything needs to be looked at. That is, that's an interesting option to explore. Again, I would like to get a grasp of, Barry once told us we have 230 buses, something like that on the road. How many buses are we speaking about? Is it tied to increased absences? We start most of the day with 20, 25 bus drivers short already in our current routing system. People have a right to be sick. People have a right to take personal days, so on. So we could add another 10 days ago, the Friday before last, we had 47 drivers out. I was at schools, and I know how hard they were driving.
How many permanent vacancies do we have?
I think 24 now.
28, so if we short-term temps for those 28 positions, we wouldn't have half the problem that we had now until we could actually fix our problem. That's all I'm saying. I just want to try to figure something out because
So you're
this
not
is
really
not
saying the
sustainable to
drivers,
keep
you're
doing
saying
this.
you're not saying we have the buses, you're saying to get the drivers.
Just to, yeah, hire
Contracted out is
some of
what
the
you're
private
saying.
contractors that are out there that are serving some of the school divisions, because that's the option that the school boards have chosen, to do private transport.
Although, I'm not, again, I'm just,
Some of them aren't doing real well.
Roanoke County.
I'm just looking to put
But
qualified.
you're coming up with a
Yeah.
potential solution, which I like.
Thank you.
Okay.
And so that, just to finish up my thought, and that's exactly what, there's some things you can do now, and it sounds like you're already, because a lot of, in my experience, a lot of people don't come to work if they're stressed out. If the bus ride is miserable, if the work environment is miserable, if you're getting harassed, you're sick.
Yep.
You're sick a lot. And whether it's a sub or a teacher, and so, sounds like you're getting with the senior leaders and doing something about that right now to maybe help out the environment on some of these buses, let's say. But then there's some more things like maybe temp drivers, but, okay.
Dr. Chase?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, in response to Dr. Kisner's comment about maybe we're overpromising, and the only thing that really concerns me the most, and I know it concerns probably everybody on this board, is when I hear that a student doesn't get to school until 45 minutes late. And when I hear that, in an elementary school where the teacher is trying to do this responsive classroom, and then those students aren't there, and they get there, and all of this relationship building happened during that 45 minutes. So overpromising, I just would really like us to be able to get kids to school on time. I'm not, and don't get furious with me, I'm not so concerned if it takes a little longer to get home, or if we have to pick you up earlier in order to make it on time, but I would really like us to be able to get kids to school on time if we can. And I know it's a challenge.
Ms. Hazard?
I do think we have to look outside the box. I think most people know, or at least I do think maintenance and some things, based on some of the emails we've also gotten, I think we really have to look pretty deep in general, because in my conversations with some of my, the bus drivers that serve the wonderful roads of Heartwood and Poplar and Mountain View, first, thank you. But you all have driven those for a long time, and hearing your concerns this year were really hard to hear. And I'm just throwing out another sort of potential middle-of-the-road idea. I know right now in our schools, I know that bus driver contracts are different because they are based on a per-hour type thing. And I think we have to really, to me, unpacking that is going to be way out of my pay grade. But because I think of in our schools, especially I can talk to it of high school because I can speak to it because it happened to my daughter. We have teachers in our high schools teaching extra sections, especially of math, because of vacancies. Those teachers are given, depending on if they pick up one section on an XY day, it's a 10% increase to their pay. If they pick up two, I think it's a 20%. That recognizes that, yes, that teacher is still in that building, so they're in there on their contracted time, but it's saying you are taking on an additional responsibility. And I would really like to think of that concept, how, or if that could work somehow with our drivers, because I truly believe that even after we do all these things, in the next 6 weeks, we may not have 29 new drivers. That there are going to be teachers that are, there are going to be drivers who are going to be picking up that route consistently because they aren't being picked up. I would love for there to be some kind of compensation, because we are doing that for our teachers when they pick up extra sections. And yes, they're still in the building. And to me, these drivers are still on a bus. They may be contracted for 6.5 hours, and that should be X amount of miles. Like I said, this is way out of my, but now you're doing another 400 miles, I have no idea. But that takes a toll on that bus. That's a maintenance possible issue long-term. To me, it's a huge issue, but I don't know if that's a great concept or not, but I think of it.
No, I think it's.
Does that make any sense?
It makes a lot of sense to me. Again, and I think the chair and vice chair saw me a little confused about this contract language today. This contract that we have seems remarkably complex and maybe a barrier. I did ask our new HR director to be part of this discussion because I do think, again, we need to restructure how we're doing things because what we're doing now, we have to acknowledge is not getting us the result that we're seeking. I also say this because I want to be honest. Talking to a lot of superintendents, our challenge is much greater than you think because they are also facing driver shortages, okay? So we do have to find a way to be competitive, but also, as we heard, with these drivers will be the ambassadors to tell, you know what, you come to Stafford County Public Schools, it's a good place to work because besides pay and what else, these are the other things that they're doing for us, okay? And so something like that, I think, could be unique compared to other school divisions. So everything has to be looked at the table, and I'm going to be first to tell you, 6 weeks, we're going to have a recommendation. We're not going to have all the solutions. How we got here today does not just happen starting August 12th, okay? So we will make great progress by collaborating. We are going to have a recommendation, but the work is not going to stop the day that we do the recommendation. Okay.
All right, so it sounds like we're going to have a long-term recommendation, but as Ms. Egan has made clear, and I think the other board members agree, Dr. Kisner, we also need a short-term plan. And that plan would be, how are we going to address the shortage? Whether it's, an approach, as Ms. Hazard suggests, that maybe we can, add in pay incentives, for taking these additional on, or Dr. Chase, maybe we start school earlier so we can get the buses on the road earlier, so we can, get people closer to the start time, before the start time rather than after. Or as Ms. Egan says, look into, contract labor. There's all, these are just some suggestions, and we are by far not the experts on this. So, what I'd like to see is, short-term and long-term. And again, if there's any way to bring something in October, maybe the short-term, that would be helpful, because that's going to relieve some of the pressure on our drivers if we can help address the short-term issue, which is having enough drivers to transport the students. The long-term is, how are we going to fairly compensate our drivers, as well as make sure that they do not have I don't know what the word is. I mean, they have a respectful working environment. I mean, I have to say, I was shocked that these things are going on in the bus. Not only that they're going on, but there's a record of them. There are videos of what's going on, and nothing's happened. So that's just to me, because I've sat on discipline committees where we have said, okay, you're off the bus for whatever amount of time, because of quite inappropriate behavior. So I think we need to make clear, and it sounds like you've already started that with your staff, but with our line people, what the expectations are, from the school system, what the standards are, and then start, enforcing it. Because this is going to be a partnership. This is the school staff, it's the parents, and the students. And if some students are put off the bus because they're not behaving, properly, and I'm not talking about just maybe spilling water, although they shouldn't do that, but some, like this language.
Yeah, no, you don't have to repeat it.
That's just not acceptable. And our bus drivers also need to know what is the appropriate protocol for them when this happens. Do they go back to school? Do they, call a deputy? I mean, I think it needs to be, everybody needs to be reading from the same page on here. What are the expectations, and, what are they to do at that point? Because particularly with some newer people that may not be as experienced, there may be some confusion. So I appreciate you, having that meeting today, and I appreciate the ability to come with Dr. Chase, and we didn't mean to leave anybody out, but we wanted to have a presence from the school board so that the drivers know that, you know, we are concerned. So this is like firsthand, and we both took notes. We did. So we can, if we can read mine, you know, we will be sharing them, but I think we could not have said it as eloquently as the drivers who addressed us tonight. So you have a mission impossible that we will expect to be reached. So thank you.
I might kind of miss redistricting.
Hey. Oh, yeah, well, this has been a lovely year, just a lovely year to be your chair, people.
I didn't ask the right questions during my interview.
Oh, listen, you've been here a year now, no excuses. You're not a newbie. You've had your anniversary. All right, so is that enough discussion for tonight on the buses? All right, Mrs. Massey, come on down. Poor Mrs. Massey, she always seems to get at the end, although we tried to put you at the top of the information. But unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, Mrs. Massey has several things that came up recently that she needs us to approve tonight. They're on for information, but there's a request that they be brought to action, and the reason for that is so that we can actually apply for grants and get money to do things. So the first item is the authorization for the school board chair to sign a grant application for the Head Start Nutrition Consultant Project. Do we have where is this one? I'm reading, is this a new one? Is this a new one you put on, Missy?
That's the first one. 1102.
Oh, okay, well,
Second is
not only did I not get Mr. Fulmer's revisions, I didn't get these. I'm the paper person. Well, you know what, we'll get to that one next. The first one is authorization of, where are we? Oh, for the school board chairperson, that would be me, to sign a grant application for the Children's Insurance Outreach Project. Any questions on this? If not, do we have a motion to move it to action?
Motion to move 11.02 to action.
Second.
All right, motion by Ms. Hazard, second by Dr. Chase. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, now do we have a motion?
Motion to approve authorization for the school board chair to sign a grant application for the Children's Insurance Outreach Project.
All right, motion by Ms. Hazard, second by Ms. Egan. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Hold on there, you're not done yet. The next one, 11.03, authorization for the school board chairperson to sign a grant application for the Head Start Nutrition Consultant Project.
Motion to move 11.03 to action.
Second.
All right, this is the Hazard and Egan show here. You guys are
Just get 'em done.
fast, move it along. All right, all in favor of moving this to action, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, do we have another motion?
Motion to authorize the school board chair to sign a grant application for the Head Start Nutrition Consultant Project.
All right. Ditto, Ms. Hall. Any discussion? No? All in favor? Please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thanks for staying.
Passes unanimously. One more, 11.04.
That's somebody else, though, isn't it?
I think that's Dr. Towery.
Oh, but Mrs. Massey is doing so well. Would you like to appoint her your designee?
Dr. Towery is 18 pages, and I intend to go over every single one.
Okay, well, you're going to have a
Very
private
nice to
audience,
her.
Mr. McOsker. This one is for tonight, too, right? Is this one the one that, yes.
That would be wonderful.
Yes, this is the one that was inadvertently omitted. I think that was my words, but that's okay. There's no harm here. It was supposed to have been on the agenda. So this is to authorize the school board chairperson to sign an Advancing Computer Science and Education grant application. So these don't cost us anything, and they may bring us funding.
Motion.
Do we have a motion? Ms. Hazard, you're on a
Motion to
roll.
move 11.04 to action.
Second.
All right. Oh, Mr. McOsker.
I got that one in.
Did you get that one, Ms. Hall?
I'm just dying to talk about this.
Okay. All right. All in favor of moving it to action, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Do we have a motion?
Motion to authorize the school board chair to sign an Advancing Computer Science and Education grant application.
Second.
All right. here we are. Any discussion?
I just would like, if you would just take 2 seconds or a minute to tell us what it is for, so that people watching will know what this is about.
Absolutely. So a few years ago, VDOE created some computer science SOL standards for us to be covering K through 12 and school divisions. There's, I think, a recognition from VDOE and the General Assembly, who's provided the funds for these competitive grants, that while they created these standards, not all school divisions have the capacity necessarily to do this on top of already busy things and stretched funds, et cetera. So I think the grant is a way to encourage school divisions to set up regional partnerships, to develop curricular resources that will go into open source repositories and be available throughout the state.
Did you get that, Mr. McOsker?
Oh, yeah, I'm done.
I think it went right over my head since it's almost 10 o'clock. Did that answer your questions, Dr. Chase? All right, all in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, motion carries unanimously. Okay, the next one doesn't have to be moved to action. It'll come back on the consent agenda at the next meeting if no one has any objections. Approval of the 5th year of a 5-year policy services agreement between the Stafford County School Board and the Virginia School Boards Association for policy services in the amount of $3,750 from budgeted FY20 operating funds. No questions on that one, huh? All right, 1106, approval of a contract with Major Security Consulting and Design for security audit services in the amount of $85,000 from budgeted FY20 operating funds. Dr. Chase.
Yep. So there was one thing I'm sure there's more than one thing, but one thing that I was curious about whether it could be added to the project is I hear at schools that have larger numbers of students with severe health issues, and there's just one nurse there, that sometimes they're having to do pretty high-level interventions that then maybe puts less personnel available to handle other sort of safety issues. So we're looking at safety here very much in terms of intruders or threats, those kinds of things, but health safety, physical safety in terms of if a feeding tube has to be changed for a student, but then we've got another student who's had something happen. So I just wondered if that is something that could also be looked at by the consulting company, or if that's just...
I don't think they have the scope, the experience level. It's more security and safety issues.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying, but to be honest, their credentials to this,
That's correct.
Well, this contract's pretty much set, right? This has been through our contracting person that
Yes.
has, this contract is literally ready to be awarded once the school board approves it. So the start date and of this 3-month term will start, when it's approved. But that's something that certainly we could ask the superintendent to see if we have internal resources that can look into that, because we do have, coordinators and, people that could look into the school. So, Mr. Nichols, is there a benefit to the school system to this being approved this evening?
Ma'am, I would say that we've been working on this for quite some time to get it ready and presented. I would ask that it's up to the will of the board. If you'd like to approve it, we could get it started as early as tomorrow with the kickoff.
Ms.
If you
Healy?
wish to wait until the October meeting.
I'm good. I'm fine.
If I could speak before we move that. Most of you know how many times have I asked about this RFP since poor Dr. Kisner has been sitting next to me, so I'm sure you're very happy that you're finally bringing it. So I would like to move it. I do see, though, that it says the consulting firm will also be available to meet with the school board to present its findings and recommendations. I really would prefer for them not to be available. I would prefer for this board to have a meeting as part of their contract that they will meet with us. I thought I scanned the contract, I have to admit, very quickly.
The last thing they do.
I would like it to be that we as a board are going to meet with the consultant, because there may be questions. I believe it can still be closed door. I will let the attorneys figure that out. But I believe that the board needs to, based on other conversations we've had this evening, that we have a board not just be available. I would like there to be a plan.
Yes, part of the contract is for them to sit down not only with staff, but also the board. to present their findings and recommendations.
Okay, I just want to make sure that the board.
It's in the contract.
Okay,
Right,
and I
but-
just have a quick question. We are going to involve the sheriff's office in this, correct?
They're going to be looking at the MOU with the Sheriff's Department, and also the process of how we're using the SROs and the SPOs, yes.
Okay, because, we're so fortunate to have such a great relationship and a great sheriff that we can, help look out for the safety of the schools. I want to make sure we take advantage of that, when we're moving forward, particularly, since this could potentially have an impact on, our decisions about where we're going to go with security. So thank you. So do we have a motion to move this to action?
Motion to move to action, sorry, I don't have the number,
11.06.
Second.
All right. Motion by Ms. Hazard, second by Mr. McOsker. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Do we have motion for approval?
Motion for approval of a contract with Major Security Consulting Design for security audit services in the amount of $85,000 from budgeted FY20 operating funds.
All right, motion by Ms. Hazard, second by Ms. Egan. Any further discussion? No? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you, Mr. Nichols. That brings us to 11.07, discussion concerning.
11, yeah.
Am I
Yep.
reading the right number?
Yeah,
I'm
you
reading here. Discussion concerning post-elementary redistricting, post-middle school redistricting, and Embry Mill/Park Ridge bus pilot program. All right, this is Ms. Young and
Yeah.
Mr. McOsker.
Yeah, I'll
Put
be
this on
real
the
quick.
agenda?
Yeah, I'll be real quick in this. I did ask Dr. Kisner to give us some feedback on the redistricting, and basically I combined it because I was looking at my area schools. Of course, some individuals, I had a town meeting with some of my constituents' parents. I drop in some of the schools sometimes, and they spoke about, you heard them, where they felt that they were moved, just like 2 streets were moved to Stafford Middle, while the little ones are going to Hampton Oaks, and they have older ones at North Stafford. So they want, their family together, just like most of the other schools and areas, communities saying they want to play baseball together. So I think it's unjust for them to be just in the little own island. But what I was thinking about in general, and I think we had these conversations on and off, the reason why I lumped these 3 together is because Embry Mill and Park Ridge had that bus pilot program. I did ask Dr. Kisner to give me a feedback on that or a report, and he was going to work on that. But I think there's something wrong with the way how we just do redistricting. And yes, we did say to Barry and the school system, the bus, how is it going? Are you going to get them there? Yes. Is it going to, reduce the amount of time? And, of course, Barry trying to please us all and say yes. But I don't know if we gave them enough time to do a study before. And I'm saying that, we need to look at, what can we do better? Next time we do a redistricting, that we make sure that we plan the bus at the same time instead of having it like an afterthought. Say, for example, Embry Mill, we try to switch the time. Embry Mill had late time, and Winding Creek had early time. And so it's still, I don't know if it's a mess, but, we talked about the 2 principals getting together and put some parents together, but that, I don't know what that feedback is, because I still get emails. I still get many emails stating that they're still having problems, and I forward those to Dr. Kisner. But, like, say, for example, driving, the bus drivers driving all the way to Stafford Middle, and then they may be the same drivers that are going to H.H. Poole, I don't know. But to me, that is crazy. We have them doing some crazy stuff. And so I'm thinking that maybe if it's the will of the board, if this, maybe next year we take these 2 streets, for example, we'll make the parents happy, but maybe it would help, and it's just a little bit, but it would help those few bus drivers to go in one direction and not having to go down Route 1 if they're taking the same neighborhood. They're taking them to H.H. Poole. Why have that bus driver stressed out going down Route 1, wherever it is. So this is just my thought, and this is the reason why I was bringing this up, but I didn't know that you all had that meeting, but I was just thinking on a small scale, if I was looking at this, I stood on the corner at Park Ridge many times and talked to bus drivers. I don't know who of you all are here, but I talked to, at Park Ridge? You see me. Okay, so I've been there on that corner, talk and see what the problems are, talk to parents, trying to figure something out. So I try to want to be part of the solution. And so this is the reason why I'm thinking, Dr. Kisner, you there with me? Hello? Yeah. So if you could talk to,
You and I
what-
talked,
yeah.
so I
Yeah,
follow.
so you have any feedback to that?
Yeah, just some things real quickly. I handed out, so you understand September 30th is the official number, but I don't think a lot of things are going to change between now and September 30th. And I just wanted to share with you, to give you a sense of, where we projected and how it actually occurred. And I know I gave you middle and high school also, but, the question was about elementary and middle school, okay? Just something just to think about, okay? I feel like this year we handled the Rocky Run and Falmouth situation quickly and efficiently, and the board was supportive, so I do thank you. So I guess one of the questions that I would ask without seeking an answer, are there opportunities as superintendent working with his staff to look at these issues out there in islands and say, you know what, we're just following a practice because this is how we agreed months ago, but it needs to change. And as I just, and why do we, can I just change it because we know we have the room, work with the families? Again, I'm not seeking an answer now, but there are, you heard a couple parents come tonight, and, I would need to study it more, but what I heard made sense to me. But, so I guess do we need to do a whole major redistricting? Or,
I don't think anybody uttered the R word.
No.
Major, at least. Ms.
no.
Egan wants to talk next, okay?
So I just raised that because, we may have discovered already some areas that need to change.
Yeah.
But right now I have this 5% rule.
Yeah.
And that 5% rule is it's helpful if you're one of those 5% kids, but sometimes you need more than 5%.
What's considered 5%?
Excuse me, let's let.
So anyway.
So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's not just the townhomes of Hampton Oaks that's going to Stafford Middle School. If anybody paid attention during the middle school redistricting, they would have seen my head blowing off my shoulders. You've got there's a lot of houses up there of your constituents that have been moved. So it's not just going to be Hampton Oaks. You need to look at that whole area up there, because there's a lot more than just Hampton Oaks that's going to Stafford Middle School. So
Thank you for bringing that up. I know I was not on the board at that time, but this is something that they brought to my attention, that little group. So the whole area around them are going to Hampton Oaks and are going to H.H. Poole.
Oh, I
There is
understand.
that sliver within, yeah.
Believe you me.
And so that's that 5%, yeah.
I fought to keep them at H.H. Poole. I'm just going to say that.
Thank
I'm not
you.
going to.
And I'm not going to mention, I'm not going to mention the other school that, because they were pulled last minute, from what I was told. I don't know, I wasn't here. But they were pulled last minute for another area to be able to go to, I don't know what school, Rodney. But, yeah, so I don't know anything. I don't want to just like.
So I just offer that
Oh, they
as
said
if you're
something.
going to be
Rodney
looking
Thompson.
at making some
Yeah,
changes.
so I guess I was seeking, not an answer, but if the board's going to do a middle school redistricting, then what I just said is,
Please, it's very late, it's after 10 o'clock, we do not want misinformation
Yeah.
floating out in the public that we're discussing a major redistricting.
A spot redistricting could probably still be done with the other
right,
communities that are there.
And I'm not even suggesting anything for this year. I'm just saying, I think it's, I wouldn't do it this year. But as we're looking ahead, there might be some areas that we could fix.
Right.
Because it just makes sense. And of course, I will let the board know about it, but not require a lot of study and board action.
To January, I think you need to really look at it hard.
I'm sending everyone to Ferry Farm, but,
Ms.
Ms. Healy, if I could just make a comment. I think it's an opportunity, as we went through the redistricting process, and I can speak to the high school one more so, we did find, even during the high school redistricting, that aggregate numbers do not work by area. I mean, Dr. Chase and I believe, worked well, but the consultant kept saying to us, do not move those kids out of Falmouth. And we both kept saying, please move them out of Falmouth. In the end, we ended up moving 80 more. But if you take those 80 and hold on, I'm not a math, almost 60 or 70 more that are in Falmouth that we don't think are there, we were off by then like 160 or 70 kids at Falmouth. We have got to figure out why. I have some theories, but we have got to figure that out before we start talking about moving anybody. And even on a 5%, we have to understand what was not accounted for there, because that area of the county I am very concerned about. I've talked about TDR for a long time. I voted against it every time on the Planning Commission because I think it is horrible that you can build that many homes and have no proffers. But can't relitigate that. I voted against it.
Well, this is just
But I'm just saying,
informational.
but I think that is something I would really like, when we get these projections, I don't want us to also do, like you were saying, let's just do it the way we did it, because somehow we missed something, at least with a couple of our schools. And if it's done small, it's in other pockets. So that's just something broad.
And do we appoint a new person already? Yeah. Yeah, but, yeah, yeah. I think you're going to be very satisfied, and he would actually say not even use a consultant. He feels he's more than qualified to do these enrollment projections. He's been doing it for Arlington County Public Schools with significant accuracy. So that's good to have your own person, and we can look at it, because I do agree with you, the aggregate does not tell the most accurate story. Yeah.
All right, so Dr. Chase, did you have something you wanted to?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, the parents who came from the Hampton Oaks area, I'm not opposed to looking at that, but I just want us to be careful that we don't have lots of other little areas that we would then find that we're overfilling HH Pool, or we're overfilling some other school in order to deal with that. So I'm not opposed to having the discussion, but I don't want to make promises without knowing the outcome.
May I come in?
Ms. Young?
I just want to close in saying that, as I stated before, they were slated to go to HH Pool, and at the last minute, they were moved and ended up at Stafford Middle. And so for that reason, not just for that reason, but like Ms. Egan pointed out, there's other little areas that need to be looked at. But if it wasn't for some new parents moving into those townhomes, those individuals living there still would not have come forward. And Dr. Chase knows exactly what I'm talking about, because we've been in areas where we've asked people, how do you feel? Can you come and speak to us? And they never showed up. And they're 230 people strong. Some people just don't come because they don't think there's going to be any change. So we need to be their voice. And so I'm advocating. And it was nice that they invited me. It's like, hey, Pam, do you want to come? Because they see me at the school. I hear noise. And I walk up to Hampton Oaks because it's right there on the street. And then they surround you and they create their own little townhome. So, but it's just being the voice for those that are voiceless.
All right, what else you want me to do?
All right. Approval, well, we don't have to do anything tonight. This is information. Approval of the FY21 school board budget priorities. So that'll be back to us next time. All right, nothing else?
Can I ask clarification, Ms. Young? How do you want the suggestions sent? I'm sure you all know that revamp the entire transportation system is going to be one I will be sending along. But if you want to send it to me, I can send it. I'm sorry, I'm an editor.
We're sending, well, let's just send it to Dr.
Whoever.
Kisner, or Missy, and she can share it with the board, so we can, I'll see it. So anybody that wants to have any suggested changes in this, send it to Ms. Hall. She'll share it with all of us. Make sure you don't respond when it's sent, because then that could be a potential FOIA violation. So just take it under advisement, and we'll have a, maybe we'll even have a work session there before the meeting next time. Oh, gee, joy. All right, next school board meeting is October 8th at 7 o'clock. Oh, my gosh. Thank you, bus drivers, for being with us all evening.
Delivery now?
My daughter goes to Liberty, but there's Helen and them on the swing set. They do that picture every year.
That is very freaking cool.
Isn't that great?
He's a good, handsome, pretty girl. Handsome guy, pretty girl.
Let's see, and then I've got,